Ryan.
All right, sweet. So today we are learning basketball with David Lee here on a playback, little live basketball stream today. We got the Hawks on national TV. Sadly, Trae Young not here for a month. He's out for with a knee injury, I believe, at least a month. But that means it's the Jalen Johnson show. So, what early impressions of Jalen Johnson's as the number one guy, and how you doing tonight, David? I'm glad we could connect here after about 20 minutes of setup.
Yeah, I'm good, man. I think that early returns from Jalen running the offense, I think there's still a little bit left to be desired. I think he's awesome, like on these types of possessions where he's pushing and I can't believe he just smoked that.
Oh, man.
But like, I think that's
Had the highlight.
right. That right there is like a consummate Jalen Johnson play. Like push the pace right after you get off the rebound, and then they've got guys like Zach Streakin who can take advantage of it. So I think that's really the Hawks' biggest strength right now when they don't have Trae to operate in the half court.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to kind of dig into Jalen's playmaking a little bit, just in general, I guess, because that was I feel like that was going to be a theme this whole season for Atlanta before Trey got hurt, and now it's one of the most important factors probably of how their offense kind of survives. Do you think off the top, how do they replace Trey Young? Do you think it's more Jalen Johnson, or do you think it's more of everybody else on the aggregate, the guards, Nikhil, Kennard, getting more usage, getting more than just the secondary playmaking reps?
Yeah, I think it'll kind of be like a community approach. Like I did a preview before. What game was that? I think it was after they played the Pacers, which was their first full game without Trey. And in that game, it was mainly Nikhil who saw the biggest usage bump, but we also saw like a pretty large bump for Dyson as well. And Dyson's on-ball percentage went up 6%, so he was at 15%, 15.8%. In the games he played with Trey, jumped up to 21%, and his offensive involvement rate went up 11%. And so I thought that was kind of a big reason why we saw him in such a comfortable, like why he played so well against Indiana. It didn't look quite the same against Cleveland, but I think that they're going to have to rely on a committee. I don't think Jalen is at that point just yet as an offensive player in the half court. But especially now, I think games like this is pretty important too, though, because as I've talked about a lot, man, there's a lot of issues with this team with size, and I mean the Magic pose a lot of problems for the Hawks in particular.
Yeah, I asked Quinn Snyder about playmaking before the first Magic Hawks game. I asked him. Well, he was talking about playmaking and said some of the things as what you were saying about it'll probably be more of a group effort. Trey was still there, but he was just highlighting the need for the group to be better at playmaking as a whole, and that it's not just about the ball handler. That playmaking can be about the off-ball movement, the cutting, the relocation threes, just as much as it is a decision from the ball handler to make the pass. It's that decision for the cutter to realize that there's an avenue to cut and move and get open. So that was interesting, and I correlated it to more about Jalen and asked him just how impressed he's been about Jalen Johnson's development as a creator, and he definitely raved about it and called Jalen unique in that area. If you're looking to identify Jalen's strengths as an offensive player, it's his ability to create for other people and his willingness to do that. And I just think Jalen's one of the most versatile two-way wings the league has at this point, like defensively, playmaker, scorer, doing it all. But that the versatility of can do it all is one thing, and now he's like asked to do it all every single night and put it all together. And it'll be interesting to see how that works over a long sample size of number one usage here. Because he's definitely a star in this league. I think it's now we'll see, like, can it be expand to maybe a superstar two-way force, or where's the limit for Jalen's game here?
Yeah, I think he still has a ways to go defensively too, and that's the crazy part. Like it'll be interesting seeing how he matches up against Paolo, but the off-ball defense just quite honestly hasn't been good, and I'm wondering how much of that is a symptom of just how much more he has to do on offense. But He's just too destructive. He's too impactful of a weak side rim protector to not be rotating on time and to not be picking up assignments. Like too often he'll kind of space out and not make himself a factor at the rim. Like even there, like he's the lowest man on the floor. You can't allow that face cut. Like Nikhil should be peeling off to the corner, not Jalen. You see what I mean? And it's not quite instinctual for him just yet. I do blame Lloyd Pierce and Nate McMillan, not Lloyd Pierce, for not playing him earlier in his career where he could iron that out. But yeah, if he's going to be doing stuff like that off the catch and then keep pushing the pace, then I don't really think it matters much.
Dying there for a second, my bad. But
Oh, that's a good defensive rep right there. You saw that?
yeah, I
Contain
mean
Paolo in space.
he's got to be active. It's a tough matchup already.
Yeah.
They're asking him to be a number one offensive guy and guard Franz or Paolo. Not exactly easy. That's was one of my keys to the game. Was like just make them tired. Like keep running them through stuff on defense and
Yep.
assume they're going to run a lot on offense, and hopefully by the end that'll um, tire him out. So Kristaps was not in the first matchup. He was out of that game. We saw John. Oh, there's Paolo getting downhill. That
Yeah.
the last two plays now. Paolo has gotten downhill for a driving kick pass. He's had some nice jump passes this year where he's driving to the rim, drawing defenders in, and getting the ball out for a 3-point kick out, and it swung its way around on the last play. It swung to Franz for a drive and cut to a cutting to Silva, and then this play, AB gets the block, Paolo outlet, breakaways, Paolo power slam. Great to see. Love Paolo getting downhill.
Do you know how to like give people VIPs? I don't really know what that means. Someone mentioned that when I sent the link out. I don't know if that lets them watch the stream or not. I think Goated asked about it. Oh, Ant's in the chat. What's up, Ant?
What's good? I think it's just for the people that are in the stream with us. I might be able to. Let's see here. I might be able to help out some people. You said goaded.
Yeah, I think it lets them watch the game. I'm pretty sure.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah, I can't wear headphones with my hair out, so I gotta put them up. I gotta rock the Kobe Buffkin, or I can't even wear my headphones.
I dig it. There we go. Think we got him in here. But gotta love Paolo getting downhill. Definitely think that's been a pro for the Magic so far is how much they've been able to get Paolo downhill rolling in pick and roll, short roll playmaking. The Bane connection. Want to see a lot more of that, but just a lot of downhill Paolo, whether it's transition, definitely off turnovers, definitely in transition, fast breaks. You definitely want to see that. He's a force, foul drawing force. Like it's like too easy for him when he's rolling, and they can't do enough of it. I don't think. Here we got another pick and roll with Paolo. Hits the back door, a nice cut, but loses it inside. I like Okongwu.
Yeah, to your point too. Like I think Paolo's at a career high in rim frequency. Last I checked, he's at like almost 40% of his shots at the rim. I think that's big because, like, obviously, it's good to have the mid range shot in the bag, but I think considering his percentages on that shot, I want to see him use his frame a little bit more effectively at the rim. I'm curious too though because like something that I highlighted in my preview on Substack was whether the Hawks would be able to sort of like kind of not expose what Paolo does, like, but like he doesn't get the most like lift off the floor. So if he's rolling to the basket, he's not. Obviously, he's incredibly strong, but he's not always finishing over and like above people. And so I'm wondering to see how the Hawks' length can potentially bother him on those possessions where he's not, because some of these guys, like whether it's Onyeka or Jalen, are strong enough to withstand some of those bumps. So that's something I'm watching for tonight too.
Yeah, that's a sticking point with Paolo is the finishing at the rim because he can get there, no problem normally, but the finishing is a thing.
Yeah, that's a great example right there. Like if you saw the way he got off the floor, look at Jalen in the open floor, but you saw he didn't get a ton of lift off the floor, so it makes it a tougher finish around length. So I think Mogier did a perfect job contesting him there.
Yeah, and that was a time we can't really replay. I don't think as we're live streaming the game, but that was a time where you would have maybe want to see more contact from Paolo or go up a little stronger. Like he tried to finish with finesse and length around the length like with a soft touch finish from his hip. It almost like the finishing can just feel a little off, and I'm not, you would hope it just kind of improves with reps. But was talking with Jackson Frank on the pod about kind of his volume, and you're right on some of the numbers that you mentioned already. Like the shot selections improved for Paolo across the board. You're getting more free throws than ever, more rim shots than ever, more pick and roll
Mm-hmm.
man usage than ever. But also on the ball, they're mixing up how they use him, and it's looks a lot better with each game. I wrote this morning how his assist numbers have gone way up. Like first 3 games, 1 assist to 2.5 turnovers. The
Mm.
last 4 games, up to like 6.5 assists to the same 2.5 turnovers. So negative assist turnover ratio to 3 times positive
Mm.
in the last few games. Some of it competition. They beat up on Charlotte and the Wizards, and now Atlanta without Trae tonight for this what would be a 3 game winning streak. But when you're on a 4 game losing streak, you play who's in front of you.
Right,
So
right.
they gotta, if this team is as good as everyone thinks they are, they gotta beat up bad teams and have a be in any game with anyone. But they should beat up bad teams. Like that's something they should do. So if they're gonna start showing that, then they need to show it. But yeah, man, Jalen downhill is is special. What's something about Jalen that maybe the average NBA fan doesn't realize he does so great, or what makes him so special that they're missing, that a night to night Hawks viewer maybe even takes for granted?
Mm. I think it's the passing for sure. Like he's got the ability to throw some. Oh, that's
Oh,
a nice play. So
AB with the
yeah, but he has like these live dribble reads that I don't think a lot of people are aware he can do, especially if he's getting downhill. Like we even saw before that was called back on that previous possession, he was able to swing it to the corner. But I'm also curious, just in general, like, oh, that's nice. But this Magic offense hasn't been like immediately saved by Desmond Bane's presence, and I think some of that's because he just isn't shooting the ball well. But we've also seen a lot of Tyus Jones and like Anthony Black on ball, and I'm curious if you feel like that's a like something about, are they trying to figure out, okay, which one of these guys are going to be valuable, like potential on ball guys for us in the future? Because I feel like Tyus Jones is like, he's an old enough player that like we can't really expect that. But like Anthony Black, maybe they're trying to just see what are his limits in terms of on ball creation. But I just can't really, like, even right now, like why, I don't see any reason for one of Bane, Franz, or Paolo to not be on the floor. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm curious about the overall offense and what your rotation thoughts are. And then after that, I want to talk some Paolo stuff from what JJ said. But
Yeah, all good points. I think there's um good answers for all of them, but the last point I'm interested too. Like I totally agree. Like the star staggering aspect, they should have one of Bane, Paolo, Franz, or two of them on the court pretty much at all times. I do
yeah,
think Coach Mosley has shown that he likes to have entire bench lineups, and the Magic already kind of know the starters are pretty good together. The net rating is top 5 among any lineup with any decent chunk of change of playing time together over 30, 40, or 50 minutes. They're top 5. The starting unit of Suggs, Bane, Franz, Paolo, Wendell. So like one reason the Magic were so good like 2 years ago was the bench unit and the continuity of it was Cole Anthony, Joe Ingles,
right.
Mo Wagner pick and roll. So I think that's part of the reason why they're probably hunting for that next bench unit,
Mm,
something they can just a lineup they can rely on and throw out maybe without the starters. But I totally agree, if they're trying to like win like a playoff game, and especially if you're down to an 8 or 9 man rotation, like why would you, if you have 3 all-stars, why would you not always have one on the court at any given moment, if that's how you're viewing them and kind of playing through them and treating them?
right.
And to the on ball usage, I think it's just experimentation at the moment, because it is interesting that like Tyus Jones might be best as a pick and roll ball handler, but sometimes he's used as a spot up shooter. But also, if he's with the starting unit like Franz and Paulo, with those two, they're running a lot of the offense through those two big wings. So you kind of have to have whoever's out there be the spot up shooter, and Tyus can do that. It's kind of like using him as a connector who can hit the open three, which might not be his best strength if you want him to be your safe assist to turnover
Mm-hmm.
orchestrator, your half court pick and roll guy. It's interesting where they might not get the most out of his skill set that way. So I do think that um, it makes more sense because of that. And on top of that, he's not the best defender in the world. He's probably a negative defender. So because of that, he's probably best off the bench rather
Right.
than spot starting. You probably don't want him guarding starters, not being off ball, not running pick and rolls. Like none of those are what he does best, as we just kind of went through. So you would his best role is probably that six man anyway. So they've tried experimenting him as a starter and all these things, but then they lost that game when they put Anthony Black in as the spot starter. He had a great game offensively, doing the catch and shoot stuff, attack closeout stuff. He's a much better defender on the perimeter. I think we'll see a lot more Anthony Black spot starting when Suggs is out or Bane is out or Franz is out. He can kind of play any 1 through 3
Mm.
and maybe keep Tyus with the second unit the more that they experiment with some of this. But you also just play who's available. Like it turned out the last 20 or 30 games of last year when Paolo and the Magic found a groove, it was Corey Joseph, the guy who started like sixth in the guard rotation to start the year. He was the one that balanced the starting unit after all the injuries and helped them find a groove. So you never really know until it plays out. But I think ultimately Tyus will be best as the six man point guard for this team, and we'll see more Anthony Black spot starting anytime the team needs it. And AB kind of has some similar pros and cons to his game too, but it's a little bit almost flipped in the sense that like he is probably best getting downhill with a screen, but maybe the Magic can get the most out of his skill set just in a catch and shoot, attack closeouts, play defense, do role player things, bring that two-way connector feel without asking him to initiate too much as kind of a point forward. But we'll see, I guess, where they go with that. And Isaac getting some more burn. He didn't really play in that first matchup. I
Yeah, I
thought it
was
was
surprised.
because of the Kristaps matchup, but Kristaps isn't even on the floor right now, so it's not a minutes per minute matchup. Isaac's just out here, but guarding Okongwu.
Mm.
Thought that
Mm.
was mean floater by Dyson with the spin. You gotta love a good floater. Um, thoughts on Okongwu to start the season?
He might be our best player in like this far. I think he's been that good.
Man,
I think some of it is just like how inconsistent some of the guys have been. Um, like Jalen, I just think defensively it's been kind of a disaster, man. Like as big as he is for us offensively, like I think Onyeka has been the most steady contributor, and he's big against a team like Orlando too. He has some switchability. He can get on the glass, and I think when you play a team that's bigger and stronger than you got to create extra possessions or you got to outshoot them. And the Hawks haven't exactly shot the ball like phenomenally well, so I think a lot of it will have to be what they do on the glass. It's also interesting too. I feel like to JJ's point, like there's a stigma around Paolo, which I think there's some truth to it, right? Like it's not that Paolo is a bad player necessarily. It's more so that I think Franz is that good, and I also think that Jonathan Isaac is that good, and so they kind of have a diminishing return sort of like it's not always mutualistic when you have two big wing creators who are at their best with the ball in their hands. Also guys who have some shooting questions. And I think Franz is just that level of on-ball creator. I think he's that level of defender. I think he's has that much influence over transition frequency that it really boosts the numbers when it's just him on the floor and Paolo isn't. So I think that's one factor. And then I think then the other thing is just because Orlando has honestly for the past 2 years and they were in the worst shooting context in modern NBA history. Like there were very few teams. I want to say like the 2014 Sixers, the process Sixers who were trying to lose games had a worse relative 3-point percentage. And Orlando still won 40 plus, and I think that's a testament to how good the defense was. But I don't think it's necessarily that Paolo is bad at basketball. I think some of his process can definitely be cleaned up. I think he's being used in a more conducive way now. But I think some of that was also limited by the roster. Like you can't run a ton of pick and roll with Franz and Paolo because they're just sort of guarded by redundant defenders. Like if it's Jalen Johnson and Mo Gay guarding Franz Wagner, there's not really an advantage created by the screen. And so I think that's the element that Bane adds, and that's what I expected, and I wanted to see Paolo clean up his shot profile, and I think it's happened. It wasn't great in his first game against Atlanta. We touched on that on the podcast, but I think that we should see some of that plus minus data hopefully normalize if he continues to sort of like clean up his shot profile. But I also just think Franz is that good, and so it may persist. It may be one of those things where it's just like the pairing may not be the best. But even like you look right now, among lineups with 100 possessions played, Orlando is fourth. Their starting lineup is fourth in net rating. So that I think that means something. It's still very early. We still need about like 300 or so possessions for it to normalize. But I think that this unit with Bane and Wendell Carter makes sense. With Suggs on the floor is also a huge part as well because he has the transition frequency. But we'd love your thoughts on it too.
Yeah, it's good to see Suggs back. As you said, starting lineup for the Magic, top five net rating, any pretty much any volume of minutes, and I do definitely agree on the effect of Bane, especially with how his shooting gravity should and has affected it. Even though he hasn't like shot the lights out or anything
Yeah.
yet, I think the Magic fans are probably waiting for Bane to just like start launching threes at a much higher volume. I think if he's shooting double digit threes, everyone would be okay in Orlando, and maybe
Yeah.
that's something that will come eventually. But we'll see. But even without the volume, I think he's still stretching defenses, drawing attention from defenses, and you see it on just like a pick and roll with Paolo. That's probably been the highlight play for Orlando so far is anytime you see Apollo Banchero with Desmond Bane in a pick and roll or a handoff because they're getting the most out of both of their gravity and their playmaking, their scoring talents, and they're able to stretch the defense whether it's a pick and pop where Bane's popping out and able to attack the closeout or shoot the catch and shoot three, or whether he's the one initiating it with Paolo rolling. You unlock Paolo's short roll playmaking. You get two on the ball, maybe with Bane drawing two with his pull up shooting gravity, and then Paolo also drawing extra defenders on his roll, his mid range tough shot making, and we're seeing a lot more of these driving, rolling kickouts from Paolo. He's drawing fouls at the rim. He's getting shots at the rim, and that's a lot of how they're using him. So, like you said, we didn't see it as much. It's just been a lot more scrambled to
Yeah.
start the year, but it's getting better. And I would say the big thing that stood out is actually the defense that jumped out. They went back to their calling card against I think it was against Charlotte first, where they had like 18 deflections, 29 points off turnovers, after starting the year literally ranked last in turnovers. Let me back up. After being ranked sixth and seventh in deflections the last two seasons, and also having a top four defense in the last two seasons, they were dead last in deflections and like bottom five or something in defense to start the year. So like the big thing was they were playing faster, get more shots up this year, but they were not playing defense at the level that they usually do.
Right.
And finally against Charlotte, we see them break out the defense, 18 deflections, as I mentioned, all those points off turnovers. And it can't be understated how much this team survives off not just the foul creation and scoring of their two big wings, Franz and Paolo, but the 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 hustle plays, the
Yep.
points off turnovers, the points off turnovers, and the second chance points. You get Wendell and Goga and Paolo crashing the offensive glass for putbacks. Those are very valuable for this Magic team. They rank highly in rebounding on both sides of the floor. And just Paulo's ability to get the ball on the rim close with close shots in all of these scenarios, that's another way for second chance points. So you're seeing a team that is elite on defense. Remember how great they are on defense, and now they're playing that elite defense again. They're floating back up to about 15th in defensive efficiency, which is a big improvement off of the opening of the season, and
Right.
10th. I think it was 10th in forcing turnovers. So the defense is back. They know Franz pick and roll. Franz with a screen is efficient offensive shot creation. Like we've I think that's been proven. So I don't I wonder I think we're at the point where the Magic know a handful of things that they do well, and they are experimenting while they can with what else can they be great at, because you would think that there's a combination of schemes or plays that can build an identity that can be great with this offensive talent, but maybe they just don't exactly know what it looks like yet, is what it
Mm.
feels like. Because I would, like I said, I'd be totally cool if they just started running like 3 point plays for Desmond Bane to the point where like that's the main option of the offense, just to
Right.
see what happens. But to that point, if they just started like they wanted to go out 100%, we're trying to win every game as hard as possible. I think the answer is basically 50% Franz pick and roll and 50% Bane Banchero 2-man game. Like, take your pick,
Hmm.
whichever one is hot that night, whichever one has the matchup, whichever one the defense is struggling with most, lean one way or the other. And we still have a little bit of a Suggs dynamic where he's been injured all of last year.
Right.
He showed a high volume in 3-pointers. Will that still be in effect? I think he's the one that's going to be affected most from the Desmond Bane trade because he was the de facto point guard experiment last year before he
Hmm.
got hurt. And now Bane's here. Now he's kind of back to a super connector role. I think it's ultimately good for him. He can focus on defense and be less of a creator, which he's probably better in the connector 3-point role anyway. But he's also another factor where we could see a lot of hopefully Suggs and Bane pull up threes, drawing defenses out on the ball, opening off ball looks for everybody else, stretching the floor a little bit, and hopefully that unlocks everyone. But um, I do, I do think this as the season goes on, we'll see Franz on ball usage go up. I know you've been highlighting some of those
It's driving me
stats
crazy.
just is as the game goes on. Do you have the stats with you? I think it's as the game goes on, the he loses usage as the game goes on throughout the
Yeah.
game, even though he's been averaging like 19 points a game in the first half, and then it's like we forget who he is in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, I think he sees like the lowest rate of usage in that fourth quarter behind guys like Tyus and Anthony Black, which I just think isn't a recipe for good offense. I think it's definitely valid to experiment. But I personally just feel like there's nothing to be found with Tyus Jones. It's just kind of hot. That's why I really
Yeah.
think it irritates me so much, and because I know what Franz is. I don't agree with the premise. I don't disagree with the actual process. It's just more so the guys that they're giving the usage to, especially in that fourth quarter. Like I don't think there's any reason to not have Franz operating. But yeah, it's something that I expect to normalize throughout the course of the season. Like there's just no reason for it to not be that way. And I think like it would give me a little bit more, I guess, like confidence that that's what Mosley would do if we were seeing that return to like more Franz on the ball in the fourth quarter. But like again, it's a small sample, so we'll see. I think Ant said that this is probably the best defensive quarter for the Hawks this season. I probably would have to agree. The numbers I have, Orlando scored zero point 0.7 points per 100 possessions in the half court in that first quarter. The Hawks have been a top five half court defense like through the beginning of the season, but they've just been terrible in the transition. So anytime they're not turning the ball over and they can actually set their defense and they're making shots, you will notice that their defense will look a lot better. That's true for most NBA teams, but I think specifically for the Hawks too, because like they're such a small team, especially against Orlando. But it's plays like that, like that's not something that will register as a rebound for Zach. But the way he was able to tap that away from Wendell on that potential offensive putback, like that's big, and they need it. They need him to do that a lot more. He could be a little bit inconsistent on the glass, but especially in lineups like this where it's just KP, Zach has to be really active on the glass. Man, KP he draws so many fouls, man. That's a huge asset for the Hawks.
He's a tough shot maker when he's engaged, and that's another element that I might have undervalued a little bit with Trae Young out is that they can lean on
Yeah.
KP with him available as a scorer. He showed at Washington he can be a primary scoring option pretty efficiently as well. Post up threat, tough shot maker with the Dirk fade, can catch and shoot threes. Probably want to see the ball run through Jalen for the creation,
Yeah.
but you can still get Jalen Kristaps play finishing. I'm not sure. Have you seen much 4-5 pick and roll with those two? And I'm also not sure, or pick and pop as well. But I'm not sure. Like kind of like you said, I think that was a good point as well with Franz and Paolo. Why we might not see as much 2-man game between them is that they're
Mm-hmm.
not really creating mismatches by drawing the other man over
Right.
to force a switch or to like you're just drawing another lengthy front court guy over to throw size at you. Like unless you have a clear mismatch on the floor, it's not necessarily creating the advantage you might create where that you might create when involving a guard and a big and the size advantage created there.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think we've seen a lot more Trey with KP. or some inverted pick and roll with Jalen as well. Like you see a lot of Trae screening, the Keel screening, Kennard screening. But I think like when Jalen's off the floor, KP should. I think they should be running like delay Chicago action with KP, try to get him a mismatch. If that doesn't happen, cut around him, free flowing offense, and then at the end of the shot clock, it should be in his hands. We just saw it there against Franz. You know, you're able to draw that foul. I want to say Franz is. He's got a couple fouls now, man. I don't know what he's looking at. I'm pulling it up right now. But that's big too. Like I think Franz has two, yeah, 2 or 3 fouls. So that's the asset that you have with KP though. Like that isn't something that the Hawks have ever had. I remember when I asked Trader in media day, he was like, you know, it's nice to have someone who can command a double, and it's a big reason too. Like the Hawks, I want to say with like anecdotally, I'm pretty sure the Hawks are scoring at the highest efficiency that they really ever have when Trae has been doubled. Because Trae's always been able to make the pass. It's just more so about what happens when it gets in that guy's hands, and they've done a much better job attacking against this like a rotated defense. So I think it's an important period for the Hawks. You know, if they can continue to be disruptive on the defensive end and push the pace, they're going to be competitive like they are tonight. They're going to pay attention on the glass, you know, help out, gain rebound. They can survive. If they don't do that, I think the margins are thinner because you don't have like that lead creator to sort of, you know, organize everything in the half court or down the stretch. So they've kind of got to avoid clutch games, I think, until Trae is back, because I just don't think the half court creation is there just yet. But they're kind of putting on tape with, or right now, like this is the blueprint for them to be competitive with or without Trae. Push the pace, be disruptive, be disciplined on the glass, you know, pass off assignments well. Like to Jay Slash's point, he said that Dyson looks so decisive, and I think that's the thing too. Like Dyson it's tougher for an on-ball guy who doesn't have shooting gravity. You know, like he's not going to come off a pick and roll and hit a 3. And so I think that's kind of like the difficulty of putting him on the ball. But when you empower him as a decision maker, when you get him involved in the offense early, when you let him push off the glass or off a rebound, I think you kind of get these rewards where, you know, he's putting pressure on the paint, he's making good decisions. So they got to find that balance when Trae's back. I think they were somewhat there. I think they had maybe even a little bit too much of Jalen on the ball, but Zach and Dyson are kind of like, if I would say Trae, Jalen, and KP are the floor, right? Like these are the guys that you need to be a competent team. But Zach and Dyson are the guys that kind of like are the biggest swing factors for the ceiling. You know, it doesn't take much for Zach to be an impact player, but you've got to be active on the glass. It doesn't take much for Dyson to be an impact player with the defense, but you got to at least be aggressive off the catch. Like he's taken 4 threes. He's taken 4 threes through 7 games, and in today's NBA, man, that's rough. It's even hard for someone like Christian Braun.
Yeah, especially a guard.
Yeah.
No matter how great the defense is, it's just tough to be one-way player. I mean, I think certain lineups can get away with it if you if you have enough spacing and gravity, closeout attacking kind of to complete the lineup. But you basically need to be like the KCP of a perfectly built lineup, like the Nuggets team back in the day. And even he was still a catch and shoot 3 guy who developed some on-ball chemistry with Jokic, even though he's, you know, specialty is that point of attack defense. But yeah, I mean, the Hawks are playing disruptors. They got 4 more steals already, forcing 3 more turnovers than Orlando, hit a couple more threes and a lot more 2s, getting to the rim, like you said, in transition. There's Suggs, nice little up and under. But you just can't be down 20 to this Hawks team. What is happening right now with Orlando? No Trae, no problem. I guess this is the Zachary Risache show, or Chris Apps hitting a shot, drawing some fouls so far. Come on, guys, you gotta up the level, the intensity here a little bit, and on national TV.
Go to say, do y'all like the way we look without Trae? I think it's interesting because what I think is good about, not good about Trae missing time, because obviously I don't want him to be hurt, but more so like you're going to have to see how guys are going to figure it out without him. But also you still have Luke Kennard on the roster, so it's not like there aren't defensive like liabilities to try and cover up for and blame him for. So I think they'll get good reps with Trae on or off the floor, like not just creating for themselves, but also like how do we make sure we keep this guy insulated? So I think like defensively, I think they were solid even before Trae went down. So I think that as the sample size grows, we'll see how they look in clutch situations. They haven't really been in those so far. Like down the stretch against Cleveland, it was rough, but a lot of that was more defensively. So I think as the sample size grows, I think it'll be beneficial. We saw that same thing happen for Memphis when Ja missed a lot of time, and then when Ja was out with the suspension and the injury, then you see Jaren Jackson take that jump as a creator for himself, and I think that's ideally what you could see because even that's what helped Bane get to the point of where he is now. Like Bane isn't this level like off the dribble scorer and creator if he doesn't have that time without Ja. So, but I mean, besides the 3 point percentage, has there been anything about Bane that's worried you? Like, do you think that there's something that they're not doing correctly to maximize him, or is it just kind of like bad shooting luck at this point?
Yeah, it could be a combination of things. I think
Oh wow,
they're. I missed it. Let me. I got a second screen with the replay. I'll see it. Oh, oh, I went for this self T Mac. Oh, there we go. Oh, big time block. With uh, with Bane. Couple things. Good. I agree. This is also a good time for the Hawks to go through this. Like if you're gonna see what you have on the roster first month of the season, find some other playmaking, some other things that work, other lineups, and then you already know what works with Trae, and this team's already built around Trae. So not the worst time to see what else you can do
mm-hmm.
uh, in terms of that. And yeah, it does create opportunities to develop in different roles. Totally agree for Bane there in Memphis. We saw a lot more on ball usage for him there. In Orlando so far, I think he's just kind of been feeling his way into the offense and maybe even to like the chagrin of the offense a little. Like it might be even like a little too patient. Like I don't know if he fully either realizes or if the coaching staff has necessarily communicated this to him that I really maybe this is just my opinion that he should be just like pull up 3 point shooter first and playmaking second. And kind of the issue that you we highlighted with like Luke Kennard on the way he seems to play is that like yeah, he can be a secondary playmaker, but he's one of the best 3 point shooters in the entire world.
Yeah,
Like that's what we want to see first. Like we want the volume here first to create the gravity that leads to all the playmaking avenues. And like if knowing how kind of average or worse all the other 3 point shooters are on this team, let
right.
alone the history of the team, we want to see that efficiency. We that efficiency is nowhere to be found through the secondary playmaking. Like it's only coming through the 3 point shooting. Everything else is a bonus, but Orlando still has to land on the play schemes and the sets and the court mapping positioning of where do we put Bane, where do we put these stars to get the most out of them. I think the way the roster is built, it reminds me a little bit more of the how Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray pick and roll 2 man game kind of works between Bane and Banchero. That's how I envision the best version of the offense looking with those two. But that doesn't even really involve Franz, who's a whole other element. And I'm sure there's something there, maybe a Franz Bane pick and pop that can be used together. You would think Franz attacking closeouts off of a Bane Banchero pick and roll would be pretty lethal. Wendell in the dunker spot. We've seen flashes of it,
Yeah,
but I think that can be like the second biggest volume of play style for this offense. So I think it's more of it's some bad shooting luck. 3 point shooting is volatile as it is. It could be a little bit of that. He's also like kind of like we mentioned, like it's quite a bit of expectations. Like he's not actually Steph Curry, even though he is the best
yeah.
3 point shooter. Like other than Steph Curry, it's kind of like maybe it's partially my fault hyping him too on with anointing him as one of the greatest shooters in the league. But like it's just a little bit of like as we've said, this team has been a bottom 20 offense for 20 years or whatever it's been. That one of the worst 3 point shooting spacing teams ever. It's pretty
Yeah.
unlikely one shooter is going to come in and fix all of that all on his own, especially if he doesn't shoot or isn't shooting like a sniper or like a high volume guy would. So I think all of those are factors. I think if we get to the point where he is incentivized and told and kind of is comfortable knowing like the team wants and will be best if you are launching a high volume of threes on or off the ball, combined with just finding the right sets that utilize that. Like, is it going to look like Ray Allen running off stagger screens, but through a 3 point line off ball, or does it look more like, endless handoffs with him and Suggs running around, running through Paolo screens, or does it look like Franz and Wendell pick and rolls with Bane off ball, just stretching the floor, like little simple stuff like more catch and shoot threes and more pull up threes for Bane could totally change this offense, but how they get there, I think, is still being experimented. So I'm interested to see if they can find kind of any other sets other than like the Paulo Bane 2-man game is enough for me, but I want to know like what else, what other types of half court sets could be utilized to get the most out of this team, because the more options this team has for offense, the better, because it's just been so raw for so many years.
Yeah, like I like this set right here. So that was kind of like an Iverson cut for Bane to get going downhill. But it's like what's happening outside of that initial action wasn't the best. Like that's a big shot from Tristan Silva, but it didn't come from that organized play. So I think the more they can get Franz or Paolo or Bane moving like in motion is going to be big. Also, the
Yeah,
Hawks have completely fallen apart. I think they started the quarter 9-0 run. It's now a 10-0 run Orlando's way.
in 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was 23-41 when that timeout was taken about 2 minutes ago.
That's when I started, demanding the team to wake up.
Yeah.
They could actually hear me finally. Get out here, start doing something. But totally agree. I mean, Franz and Paulo on the move is a key to success for this team, and it seems to be Franz on the ball or attacking closeouts, and with Paulo, ISO post ups or rim rolls. I mean, you can just use them in so many different ways. So, but yeah, I think Bane's decision making is a big factor as well. Like, as we're kind of saying, it's just it seems like he's half a step slow and deciding to drive more often, and those two things are just making everything a little muddy at the moment. And I honestly think someone just needs to make sure he fully knows, like, he has the greenest light anyone in Orlando has ever had to just let the rock loose from downtown. And personally, I think if he can up the pull up 3 point volume,
Yeah.
that's what the difference is for this team. But it's both, and he's so efficient at both. That's what makes you just want to see how high he can push the volume. Like, if he's going to be 40% on like both types of threes, he should just take all of the threes. Like,
Yeah.
no one else on the team should be taking them. Is kind of where it ends up. So we just saw in the last one, he got a nice little catch and
And
shoot
that's
look.
and that's my overall point about Jalen. Like that was is an inverted screen. You got Desmond Bane coming to set that screen, and they try to pass off the assignment, but Jalen doesn't get back to the shooter when they pass it off.
There you go.
And
And they
so
just run it again there
yeah,
too.
yeah, and it's passing off assignments has been rough. Like Jalen is not the best navigating screens. He doesn't. While I think he processes the game quickly, I don't think he reacts naturally on defense. And sometimes it can be like coverages too. Like on that particular possession, maybe Luke was supposed to rotate and you sort of next off, and then now Nikhil gets the guy in the corner. But it's never clean and it never seems consistent. And the common person at the middle of it, unfortunately, is a lot of times is Jalen Johnson. And I think it's he's just too gifted of an athlete for that to happen. Like he has the ability to recover out to those places or those assignments, no problem. I just want to see better from him. But what I do like is the Hawks using Onyeka and KP here as a facilitator. So like using him in that pinch area, which is like directly above the free throw line extended. Like the ball is moving a lot better than it has on the last couple of possessions, and then boom, you get a three.
Man, back to back Banchero Bane pick and pops.
They might run it again here.
Beautiful. Yeah, I see what you're saying on the
Yep.
Jalen
Here come.
closeout. He wasn't able to switch back.
This is better. That was much better. Do you see how Jalen was actually denying the ball as
There you
opposed to
go.
just falling? Well, that's big. That's a big shot.
Big time from AB. I mean, that's like three straight uh baskets for Orlando out of the Banchero Bane pick and
Yeah.
pop. Just like we're talking about, where the first time Bane pops out for three, the big man Jalen a little late to
Mm-hmm.
navigate that screen. If it's a guard versus guard, maybe they're quicker about it. Or, but because it's a mismatch, that's the first thing it creates, and then they run it right back.
They're running it again.
They're just
Hey,
this
if
is
it
what
keeps
you want to
working, that's
see
what you got to do.
when run it
That's
till
great
they stop
defense.
it.
That's
Thank
great
you. Okay,
defense.
that
Oh,
was
see.
honestly, and you get the offensive rebound, another look.
Oh
But
my goodness.
there you
Oh
go.
my goodness.
There you go. The Magic just wanted more right now.
The Hawks.
Classic.
The Hawks have allowed 36% of their opponent's misses in the half court have been rebounded by the opponent. So they're allowing an egregious amount of offensive rebounds, and that's of course a specialty for the Magic. Like you guys feast on that, and it's. I think as a coach, like if I was a coach, nothing would frustrate me more than possessions like that. You got four guys watching the ball and no one's boxing out. I think that because guys are so athletic in the NBA, it's just kind of like I could just jump up and get it. But against a team like Orlando, find a body. Find a body, please. But the
Gotta
Hawks
get
are
the
in the
box
bonus
out.
though. That's big. So now they've been at the free throw. And this is now their second trip to the free throw line off of a dead ball foul in Orlando's side of the court. So they're getting free points right now.
Mm.
KP back in. It'll be interesting to see how they figure out the flow of the offense with KP and Jalen on the floor. I feel like to me the hierarchy should kind of be like with this type of unit, you start with the Nikhil, KP, or Jalen sort of screening action, and you flow into wherever the advantage is. Again, here's that same guard inverted pick and roll.
This is beautiful. This is the most they've ran
Yeah.
it like all. They've ran it more in the last 5 minutes than they have all season. This is great. This all we want to see. There you
Mm.
go. Banchero attacking the rack. I mean, just to run it off, the ones that I've remembered so far, we've seen him kick out to Bane for a three. We've
Mm-hmm.
seen Paolo keep the
What is
ball.
Jalen doing?
He's trying to contest. We've seen him keep the ball and get to the rack. I think for an and one. We've seen him drive and kick for an open three that ended with the. I think it ended with De Silva three, but that was off the just kind of a late pass
Yep.
bailout. Then he did it again. Got the Anthony Black corner three, but that might have been off a putback. But they're just getting a lot of offensive rebounds, shots at the rim, open threes, second looks. It's just good offense for the team. Like they put whether I think ultimately is we're starting what I've first coined it as was we're looking for the best way to maximize everyone's talent at once, and ultimately that's more theoretical than it is like the actual game of what's going on. Like
Mm-hmm.
they just need to find ways to score, and it doesn't have
Terrible
to be the
pass.
best play for everyone involved. Like we 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 can talk about the roster construction and boil it down, and like ideally they get everyone in the best position, but someone's gonna have to like sacrifice somewhere, and
Yeah.
it probably is gonna look like we're kind of have hit on like maybe a little less Tyus Jones, Anthony Black on the ball, and maybe even a little less Jalen Suggs as well on the ball, and a lot more Bane and Paolo and Franz on the ball, and just utilizing your best guys like we've seen this quarter. Just run Bane Banchero pick and pop until they stop it, and really just until they stop it from creating a good look.
Mm-hmm.
Because whether or not it's the best play the team has, you're utilizing your best player's strengths out of the top two options in the play, and maybe even the top three or four options if you consider like Wendell and Anthony Black to be best as play finishers in that lineup surrounding the guys
Right.
as closeout attackers. De Silva too. I think De Silva has proven he is like the ultimate closeout attacking role player, versatile scorer
Mm.
for this team where he can just heat up. He's ready to hit the catch and shoot three. He can attack closeouts quickly and score. This team is really prioritizing in its roster building the ability to attack closeouts between Jason Richardson, Noah Penda, Tristan De Silva in these recent drafts. Even Anthony Black, in a sense, especially since they already have their stars. That's been one of the biggest things they've targeted in the draft. So I think so it's smart team building when now you have multiple stars, scorers, and creators surrounded with guys that can hit the three and attack the closeout, dribble, pass, shoot quickly, defend their man, and you've got a modern team, and that's where they're at. So they're ultimately, I think, more usage for the stars on the ball is where this team is headed, and you know, ideally they find the best way to utilize everyone, but really they just need lineups that have two-way balance and positive net rating, and they need offensive sets that are reliable enough to create good shots, and those are generally getting their big guys downhill to the rim, driving, rolling, free throws, kickouts, and constant driving kick relocation out of that with their connector guards and closeout attacking role guys.
Yeah, I wanted to clip the that sequence where they just kept running Bane,
Yeah,
Banchero
I'm gonna.
pick and roll.
If you can figure out, let me know. I'll clip it after the pod because they changed the format on here. I can't find the clip button. There's so many
I think I
buttons
got
now.
it. It's down at the bottom.
All right.
But I thought that was it was just a good example of like everything we talked about, not just what you
Yeah.
were saying with the offense, but also like the Hawks somewhat inability to navigate sort of passing off assignments, and I think that comes with a younger, not a younger team, but like a team that's newer to each other. You know, like you've got different, like for example, when Dyson first became a Hawk, there were so many times like I would watch the Hawks like unnecessarily help out on a drive, and it's like he has it, you know, like so I think it takes time for guys to understand each other's capabilities, and they should get better with time. We should see some early offense from them here. So they're hunting a post up, and then they're going to try and get some motion around KP to eventually clear out that corner. And yep, he gets another foul. So KP has and this is something I love this stat, but they're the three highest foul rates on post ups all belong to KP, starting with his year in 2022, I think, something like that. So
Mm.
it's a big weapon for the Hawks.
He's a. I mean, Yeah, we touched on it with the Wizards. He was. Uh, Sorry, what I was trying to say is his acquisition for Boston
Mm-hmm.
um, was super im- insane to see because he of how great he played for the Wizards. Like I thought that they had unlocked like this perfect five out lineup basketball, partly because like they have they were able to reduce Kristaps' usage and role from all star on a middling team with heavy usage, run every play through him to just do what he does best, pick and pop, post up against mismatches. Instead of be a defensive anchor, just be one of the rim protectors,
Mm-hmm.
a part of a team defense. Like that was an issue I think in Dallas was the expectation that he was Dwight Howard or Gobert defensively and was just like gonna one man anchor everything, and he just isn't quite that. Even if he's a plus shot blocker on the help side, he's just not quite one man anchor, but like as a part of a unit, he can be a plus
Wow.
defender. Man, power, power right there. But I think him being able to lower his usage. Oh, there it is. Meme block from Suggs. There it is. Jalen Suggs averages a chase down block every game, so he got his block today. Got
They might have
his
called
his
go time.
steps in. Yeah,
They
they
might
might
have
have
called
it.
go time.
I got it on mute. It's
Oh,
they
you
might have
found
called
it.
it.
Yeah. I love
Yeah, they
Suggs'
definitely
effort though.
called something.
I think he has like of my favorite defenders in the league. I think that he's probably up there for me. Like I think like I really just enjoy watching him play defense. I think he maps the floor incredibly well. I think he like completely sells out effort wise. I'm curious too though. Like I know he grew up playing quarterback, and I feel like some of that's evident in the way that he's able to map the floor, or like even the way that he sort of like sees things happen before they do, and like he's able to make plays. I don't know, I'm a big Suggs guy, man.
I mean, Suggs Hustle is the defining face of this defense and the team. The They might be reviewing it, I guess, but you don't even care when he makes penalties
Oh, they
or
called a tech on
flag.
Suggs.
Oh, I see. He's fighting it. He wanted that block. He wants his chase down block. But I mean, you're never mad at Jalen for making hustle plays or racking up fouls or something for doing stuff like this, as long as doesn't get hurt out there. But he doesn't
Mm.
know anything but 100% energy and going all out. He's one of my favorite players too on the team, just because of that energy. He's always diving for some loose ball, getting the crowd hyped, hitting big threes now, has some game winners, some favorite
Mm.
moments as a fan. So he's been sick out here for sure.
Hawks did a much better job passing off assignments there, and it leads to a transition three. But I think like the one area that the Hawks have been really good at, not just forcing turnovers, but turning it into offense. And when they can, for it starts with the hedge, right? It starts with the way they defend that initial action and bringing the keel the hedge and not having to show too aggressively, and then it allows them to pass off assignments from there. But the defense has been a bit more connected, and I think it's a reason why they were able to respond to that barrage of Bane, Banchero, pick and roll. Now it's okay. How will the Magic counter? Will it be more Franz? Will they try and get them off the ball? I think it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, for a second I thought it was over going the Magic's way. They figured it all out, and they're back to down 14 again. Uh, real quick, another 10-0. That's basketball for you though.
Yeah.
Another 10-0 run, game of runs, as we see here.
What do you
But
think about Franz? Like I know Franz's 3 point shot has been better this year, but his free throw percentage kind of fell off. Like, do you see any differences mechanically in the way he shoots free throws versus 3 pointers? Because I've always felt like I had a comment on maybe it was the Magic preview or something like that. He was like, how rare is it for a guy to be like 80+% from the free throw line and like be this weak of a 3 point shooter? And I can't really think of many examples. I'm not sure if you see anything differently in the way that he shoots.
that's a good question. I have to pay attention to that a little bit because he's been known to on the three have a little bit of a hitch or a hesitation at times where maybe the confidence isn't quite where you would want it to be. Because he also will hit very tough threes. Like they're a little methodical. It's kind of a set shot, but it's still
Yeah.
a step back. It's still ready. And yeah, normally free throw shooting is a promising indicator for that touch, the ability for 3 point development as a shooter. So it is weird. I have to look a little closer at the form itself. But yeah, I can't think of any off my head where that's the case. But there's probably a few outliers like that. But that's one of those things where like he's so good at everything else, it's like his Achilles heel. But if he can ever figure out that 3 point shot, which he always seems to be pretty close and have good stretches, but can't quite get the percentage up over the full season. Another one where like maybe some more spacing could also kind of help everything as well. Like where he's taking a lot of step back threes as his go-to 3 point shot because no one else generally was creating threes for him to take off ball looks, and no one there's not much space in the paint to work with, so that's just one of the go-to moves. But um, we'll see where he can get it. I think like he's shown enough between the free throw and the like flashes of threes and big shots that will kind of develop with time, and he'll have it as a decent average 3 point shooter type of shot. Not that they'll be running plays for his threes, but that he'll be able to
Yeah.
hit pull up threes semi reliably with hopefully a little more spacing and development and reps as it goes.
Yeah, I almost feel like he's so good at driving the ball that I don't think he has to be like a crazy high volume 3 point shooter. But I just think it's just like that natural progression for him, and it'll make him just that much more dangerous as a pick and roll ball handler. Because right now, I think Bane is clearly the most effective pull up 3 point shooter. But then I was looking at his numbers, man, and I was not aware like per 36, he's averaging double the 2 point attempts than he is 3 point attempts, and that just can't happen. And I haven't watched enough outside of the games we watched from the Hawks to see like how his 3 pointers are getting so suppressed. But like he's just too valuable for that team as a 3 point shooter. Mm.
Was talking on mute there, but I found the clips from earlier, so we'll see if we can get those out either today or the next few days here on Twitter. Clip out some of that Banchero Bane pick and pop. But a couple last minute here. Any parting thoughts on the Magic Hawks here? Maybe what this Hawks team needs to do the rest of the way the next month here without Trae, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's kind of everything they're putting on the screen right now. Like play disciplined basketball, don't turn the ball over. like JJ said, he just asked great timing. Like what do the Hawks need for more consistency? It's taking care of the ball. It's leaning into defensive playmaking. It's being an effective transition scoring team because you just don't have that half court consistency on a night to night basis. And I think they can really build their identity that way. They're a little late getting into their offense here, but
Mm.
I think that they've got a lot of different ways to attack, a lot of different ways to defend, and the big thing is like continue to communicate pass off assignments, push in transition, be disruptive. That should be their winning formula. Kind of take a little bit of a page out of the Thunder's book, and then when possessions break down, find KP. When possessions break down, flow into O reliable with Trae Young and Jalen pick and roll. So that's kind of like how I would envision it.
There it is. I like it. Yeah, definitely agree. A little Nikhil, Kristaps pick and pop, pick and roll could be interesting, and just seeing what Jalen can do. Really testing out his skill set. I want to see how that looks going forward. But appreciate you hopping on, man. It's always fun talking hoops. We'll definitely make this happen again. Talk a little more, break down the Hawks as the season goes on the pod. But appreciate you hopping on today, David. It's been fun talking hoops.
Of course, man.
Have a good one.
See you.
With Ryan.
We ride. We're out here. Second half, learning basketball live with Eric Weiss for a little Magic Hawks. Sands Trae Young out for a month. The Jalen Johnson show. How you doing, Eric?
I'm doing well, man. This is gonna be my first look at both of these teams this year in earnest. I've only picked up clips, so I'm excited to get into the second half here. Although it looks like this is trending in the wrong direction in terms of a competitive game.
Yeah, it's been a weird game of runs. The Hawks went up 20 quick, then 10-0 for the Magic, 10-0 for Atlanta. Kind of a lot of transition. Not the cleanest play so far, but the Magic found their footing with they were spamming Banchero, Bane, pick and pop in the second quarter, which they haven't really done much this season. I was talking with David Lee in the first half. He covers the Hawks really well with the Hawks film room podcast and show, and we were just harping on the Banchero Bane pick and pop, and then they started running it and they didn't stop. It was exactly what I wanted to see from the Magic, like basically all year. Is just like run that play, variations of that until the defense finds an answer for it. Because I feel like that 2-man game is what is going to unlock a lot for this offense.
Nice. Yeah, how's that been so far? I know that Bane's, numbers or whatever don't say much of a story, but I can't trust the social media pundits. I'd like to get your opinion on how the adjustment has been so far. What's worked, what hasn't, where you think things are going.
Yeah, so they basically, it just feels like the Magic are experimenting with what might work best for this team, and
Yep.
we hit on a lot of kind of the variations of it earlier, but essentially, like they know the Franz pick and roll works. So what else is a good way to create good looks for the offense? I think is the question, and the answer can come in a lot of ways. Like I still think they're not exactly sure what the best version of this offense looks like, and they're just trying to find that answer. And we saw like a flash of a Banchero pick and roll with Bane on the ball in the first game, and I got to ask both of them about that pick and roll partnership. And Bane's answer actually went a little viral. I think Memphis kind of took it as a shot against them when it wasn't much of a shot, as much of a matter of fact of like he's never really played with a roller that draws this much attention as Banchero before, and so they're excited about that 2-man game partnership. And then we've also seen Bane get used as a pick and pop threat, so inverting that pick and roll. And ultimately, just that set just seems so valuable. But Bane in general, the shooting percentage has been a little down. It's not. It's obviously not the best context either for him, I guess, spacing wise. Like it's been a bad spacing team for everyone, so he's expected to save it all on his own, and that's a big ask. And also, I don't know if he is naturally letting it. Like he is not naturally letting it fly like maybe everyone expected right out of the gates. Like we were expecting maybe 8 or 9 or 10 threes a game at 40% shooting, or just like the greenest light we've ever seen. We haven't really seen that high of a volume. It almost feels like a point guard picking his spots, waiting to the end of the game to score, except we desperately need him to score from the beginning and start shooting right away. Oh, I looked up and missed that one, but Dyson with the steals. I mean,
You can't take your eyes off Daniels.
No, he's gonna rack up deflections real quick. So, what are you most excited to see with this Magic combination, the new roster this year?
I'm very interested to see how the Suggs Bane pairing works. A lot of teams are going big. I think that I'm a big Tristan de Silva fan. I would like to see him get more minutes than like 16 or 17 a game. I think he's ready. And I want to see if they get creative with their lineups. I think anytime you add a new player, like Bane's not coming in here gunning, it sounds like he's picking his spots and he's having, I think whenever you're a complimentary player, and despite the cost of getting him or whatever, like there's a significant adjustment period when you're coming into a new system. And if you're being super cognizant of fitting in and trying to observe things, like I'm not totally shocked that things haven't hit. Sometimes things hit and it's just like amazing, but more often than not, I mean, anybody that's played, standard pickup to any level understands that like sometimes you got a 5-man crew that just like instantly has chemistry, and sometimes you got to actually figure it the fuck out. You got to like see how it works, and you got to like, it's not instantaneous. So I'm not shocked. And I think that it'll be an interesting season overall, but I would like to see them run some dynamic lineups where they aren't afraid to put Paolo at the 5. Honestly, I would like offense was my big concern. I know the team started off very slow defensively this year. I also wasn't that surprised by that because I think the focus has been on improving the offense so much. Sometimes you just take something for granted and like mentally you're like must do offense, and then you're like, oh wait, defense actually requires attention and focus. It doesn't just come naturally. So I think there's a lot going on, and expectations really set the stage, right? This is the first year where people are like, oh, Orlando could be something. And I think that takes some getting used to too. I think you saw it a little bit with the Pacers last year where they were like, we went to the conference finals, and then they got just absolutely mollywopped in the first 6 weeks of the season. Everyone's like, oh, it's a fluke. And I think a lot of that had to do with just making natural adjustments to expectations and like really understanding that, you don't arrive, right? It's constant work. So it's early, man, it's early in the season. So like I said, I haven't even gotten around to everybody. I've been trying to pick my spots, keeping track of things, basically doing advanced scouting research on like what the storylines are, but it's hard for me to really like take anything too seriously before the 20 game mark. I know Stephen No put out the nylon calculus thing again, right? Offenses tend to stabilize at 13 games and defenses at 16 games. And those are on average too. And then you look at individual storylines as well and kind of use the marginal differences basically. And when teams have, certain changes, and I don't think Orlando's had that substantive of change even with Bane, but I do think that there are like outlier factors that are going to make me a little bit more patient with what they're doing because they have so many young players and they're kind of finding their identity.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what you said there. I think there's definitely some truth to Bane kind of picking his spots, finding his groove a little slowly, like maybe a combination of like who he is just as a professional, wanting to fit in and be like not be some ball hog problem right when he shows up, just launching threes and tough shots. Like he has to earn that kind of confidence. But I think part of the reason they traded for him was because he had already earned all of that. Like he doesn't have anything left to prove Like the reason they're not going to try to draft a top 5 guard this upcoming draft, hoping to land a Darren Peterson with that one big pick that they traded, is because they know Bane can already do it. So like they don't need to wait and see with a top 5 guy and hope everything goes right that way. Like they traded for the best shooter not named Steph Curry for all of those reasons. And like something has to click between either the coaching staff informing Bane. Like it's, I'm not like gonna pretend like no one's talking about Bane shooting threes at Magic practice. Like obviously someone like they have to be talking about this of the best way to utilize him and get the most out of his creation for the offense. And I think there's a real question of like the Steph Curry, Steve Kerr question mark of like, what's the best way to get the most out of Steph Curry? Like, is it playing him like James Harden with 40 pick and rolls a game? Or is it this endless handoff system that uses his off-ball gravity and relocation to constantly drag defenses around the perimeter and then also like takes advantage of all these off-ball looks while suddenly it's an on-ball look with a handoff for off of Draymond. So that question of like what the best balance is, I think is what they're experimenting and still trying to find. And like, you know, like you said, Paolo at the 5, we could see a little bit of small ball, skill ball type of offensive sets that maybe do look a little bit more like the Warriors in some varieties. But, you know, Bane isn't Steph, and I'm not trying to pretend to say he is, but he's an incredible shooter on and off the ball. So trying to maximize that with this team is what's interesting, because like Paolo and Franz are probably both best with the ball in their hands. You can kind of sneakily get away with that by making Paolo the roller and getting him most effective downhill with the ball in his hands, where he doesn't have to create everything from scratch. He's already got a head of steam. He's rolling to the rim. He's basically unstoppable because he's a tank drawing a foul, getting to the rim for an easier shot, even though he's not the most efficient from there. Or he's doing a lot of these really sick jump passes, drive and kick passes now that have increased. The first 3 games, he was only 1 assist. The last 4 games, he's at 6 assists, leading the team in that playmaking way. So I think the experimentation is necessary, and it's fine as long as the team competes. Like you said, they remembered who they were defensively. They finally won a game when they brought back their defensive energy. They've been ranking. I mentioned in the first half, top 7 in deflections the last 2 years, but they were 30th to start the year for the first like 3 or 4 games. Finally, they have 18 deflections against Charlotte, 29 points off the turnovers. They win that game, and they've been racking up deflections ever since. They're remembering kind of their defensive culture is where this starts. That's what got them here. And one other thing you said I thought was interesting is how we talk about teams. It almost is like we take for granted what they do and assume that it's just going to be what they do every time out against everyone, and forget that a lot of these are averages over an aggregate of 80 games, and it's based on matchups and who's hot that night. And like just because of 40, and it's the most apparent with 3-point shooting. Like 3-point shooting only really relates to the average over like a 3-year sample size sometimes for predictive measures. So like there's going to be entire months that don't reflect the type of 3-point shooter that Desmond Bane is. Yep. But then there will be months where it looks like he's better than anyone thought as well, probably. So it'll even over the aggregate. But like, lastly, the predictive stats that travel and are bankable for future predictive success are the ones that like can be helpful, like defensive or like your point differential from previous seasons. If you keep that unit together, can be a predictive future indicator, or your offensive rating, defensive rating in the regular season. If you're top 12 on those in the regular season, that's a pretty good mark that you're contending come playoff time over the aggregate. But it doesn't necessarily, just because you have a top 3 defense in general on the aggregate based on defensive rating, doesn't necessarily mean you match up great defensively with any given team on any given night. So, a lot of interesting stuff there to bounce around on.
I think Orlando is, matches up with pretty much every team defensively. I think it's just about they just got it. Like it is their identity. Like I am a big believer that like the focus on offense can take away from what you do well, but then you find your way. Cherry picking. Yeah.
We'll take
it. I'm just gonna stand down here, boys. Let's see what happens. Oh, bonus.
They need it anyway to score.
And I love, like positives I've seen so far. I've watched a little bit of Ant Black predominantly in my clipping. Him and De Silva are my big swing guys for this year. So I've been happy with how they've taken advantage of their opportunities. And I think that's huge for them overall. And I just need to see, how they shake out, how Jamal shakes out the rotations in general. I think there's some experimentation with that, right? Like you have guys playing, really, everyone's going to leave the bench for that. Like, get real, man. Calm down. Yeah. I'm sorry, I grew up in the 80s. Like, I just can't. When it's just like, come on, dude. It's fine. Everything's fine. But like Bane, like there's also a thing, like shooting can be very fickle. Right? Like, especially when you're thinking about how you're doing things, what your role expectations are. I can see Bane putting a lot of pressure on himself, not just to, fit in and not rock the boat, but also knowing the expectations. I think that stuff can take away from your natural shooting. I'd use nice. Come on. Like, it's nothing, dude. It's so dumb.
Smack the basketball. Watch the basketball. He hits his arm and it goes flying down, but watch the ball. Boom.
Yeah, no, that was dope.
That was a lot. He perfectly timed that. That's
pretty good.
That might get him. That one.
That's definitely getting a tech, dude. Yeah, no doubt. Volleyball, whatever. Spike balling the ball onto the falling opponent is pretty great. Yeah. But ultimately, no, you definitely it's not allowed. But it was funny.
Not a basketball play. Funny timing, but not a basketball.
I don't know why he did that, but it was funny.
Yeah.
Honestly, but yeah, like guys struggle, man. Like, what's his process been though? Like, he just missed a wide open shot and he missed to the right, and you're like, dude, that's never going to happen. And I'm watching it as my, Celtics friends are going nuts because Peyton Pritchard and Derek White aren't hitting shots, and I'm like, dude, like, did they forget how to shoot? Are they getting bad shots because of the personnel changes, or are they struggling to hit shots that they always hit? And the numbers say it's the latter, that they are missing shots they make. And you're like, well, what are the contributing factors? I'm like, well, personnel changes and knowing that you're going to have to step up in a role. The shots are the same, but your mindset and the level of like pressure you're putting on yourself changes. And I wouldn't be shocked if that's part of Bane's process right now. Is like, I'm the guy. They traded a bunch of stuff. This is what I want. Like, there's like it's Orlando, but it's like there's a lot of attention. There's buzz, and I think that affects people different ways. Not everybody is Jordan Poole, right? Like, some people have a conscience and they have to like, and they actually think about things, and they like, and they reflect on, what things mean at a deeper level. And Bane's always struck me as a player like that. He seems like a pretty cerebral guy, and sometimes your head fucks with you a little bit when you're getting used to things.
Yeah, and to that point, like some would say, like it can work against you just as much. Where like sometimes the athletes that have the quote unquote like goldfish memory, where they can just forget the last play like it's nothing and just move on to the next one and have the same like Nick Young swaggy P confidence on every shot.
Yeah, like
that's a skill in of itself. Where take J.R. Smith, where LeBron will trust J.R. Smith in the biggest moments, even with the infamous blip he made in the finals. Like he will still trust J.R. out there because he knows J.R. is not shy about shooting the rock.
J.R. has never felt pressure in his life. No,
like he's not afraid to let it fly in the biggest moment, and there's not.
Did he just get booted? He get an F2 on that? Wow,
Desmond Bane. Yeah, I mean he kind of launched that ball at his head.
I mean, yeah, but like
it also, I didn't even know if he did it on purpose. It happened so fast.
I don't know what he was doing.
Like, do you think he was trying the I'm falling out of bounds, let me throw the ball off of you play? But he had already drawn the foul. So like,
I don't know what he was doing. It looked like a frustration move. I don't know if It looked like he was trying to spike the ball on him, but I have no idea. But I'm fascinated that they gave him a flagrant 2 on that. A flagrant 1, like obviously, but to get kicked out, like it's not exactly the world's most dangerous play. Like it's funny and inappropriate. It's certainly not dangerous. I don't know. Like I've seen worse get less penalties, but whatever. I think one could easily equate that to the same kind of stress that we were talking about, like what was going through his head at that point in time. I don't think Kongwu was talking a lot of shit or whatever. Like, so I don't know what precipitated that. Oh, Jace Richardson's in the game. That's interesting. So we're at that point.
Yeah, we got rookie now. Jace. I would say Jace is probably getting the call before Jet Howard, if I'm not mistaken, on most of these games, or at least just as often, which I don't disagree with. Jace has been nothing but excellent in his minutes.
Jace doesn't seem like he has a conscience either. Like his dad was not afraid to do whatever the fuck he wanted to do. So I'm not. There we go. Another just easy, simple man. His points per minute or his overall production per minute has been outstanding. I would like to see more of him.
De Silva and Black.
Hey!
No doubt. They've been unreal. De Silva right out of the gates, but Black kind of took a minute, and Black's also had to adjust his role a lot. De Silva has like basically the simplest role on the team, and Kit thrived in it. Like it's just hit the open 3. He's really got the nice off ball cut chemistry with Franz Wagner already. Oh, that was a mean 3.
A nice track, man.
As well. Oh man. Oh, Kongwu.
Mo's getting real minutes, man, for Atlanta. I'd just like to point that out. A lot of people were postulating, and rightfully so, that his like productivity at the last quarter of last year was a byproduct of the end of year kind of ambivalence. But he likes that left elbow, man.
He's legit. I mean, De Silva just a versatile scorer in so many different ways.
Good length, good fluidity, not a like freak athlete or anything, but he moves very well and he knows how to play. Whoa.
Oh, lost the game for a minute there.
So you got that? Oof, damn. Gay is killing it, dude. You got things sorted there? Oh, there we go. What's up?
Do you see both of us right now on the stream?
Yeah,
I
think we're both in there. We've been flashing in and out.
It sounds good. My stream.
There's like 1,000 new features in here. Yeah. It's kind of exploded. Media only. I don't know what that does. Don't press any buttons.
I press. That's what happened here. Is I pressed something and now I only see one of us. So as long as
I can see both of us.
Everyone sees both. All right, so we're good. I could still see you on one of these screens here. So we're good to go. So Atlanta is mostly just forcing turnovers, playing fast, thriving in transition tonight. Jalen Johnson doing his thing, getting to the rim, throwing down some monster dunks. Risaché's at 19 points. Jalen's at 17. Nikhil is 13. Pretty balanced here. Porzingis at 10. Onyeka at 10. They had 3 more steals early, and the Hawks have 12 turnovers. The Magic only have 11, so they've caught up a little bit on that end. But no one's really hitting their threes. I mean, it just kind of Atlanta outrunning Orlando tonight, and like not what you want to see from Orlando. Like 2-game winning streak, missing Trae Young. You already lost 1 to Atlanta. It's a Southeast Division game that matters for the tiebreakers if all these teams are going to be in the midst in the playoff discussion. And you're losing to Zachary Risacché with three All-Stars. Like what's going on?
Yeah, well, I'll say this.
Not to minimize it, but
I'll say this, and I know this is not like the hottest of takes because plenty of people have this, but I'll at least back it up with my rationale. I think this is exactly how Atlanta's season is going to go. They are going to be substantially better playing without Trae Young, but then KP will inevitably get injured for 25 games, and then they won't have the full complement of players minus Trae Young, and then they'll need him, and no one will be able to make any sense out of what the team actually is. But I do think, based on personnel, they honestly, like, Jalen Johnson's going to thrive, like going from being more of a connecting based, playmaker guy to much more of a on ball initiator. And he's not perfect, but he's like, that's the mold, man. Everybody wants the 6'9" creator guy, and he can do that stuff. And he doesn't need to do it all the time. You see how well Nikhil Walker-Alexander is playing. Like, it benefits everybody to redistribute Trae's shooting. And Trae's an amazing offensive player, but like, the level of heliocentrism that he just absorbs so many shots. And when you have a team this deep, I think it is always beneficial. And when you talk about how much you have to hide him on defense versus the personnel that they have, I would rather take the shot distribution to the rest of their talent and maybe fall off a little bit in like self-created clutch. Like, he's an outstanding offensive player. I don't want to be one of these guys that's like, oh yeah, but like, you do have to game plan around him on the other side. And Atlanta's personnel is like ideally suited to be a top 10 defense, like, without him on the court. And I think they have a ton of skill. Like, I did not like Jalen Johnson coming out of Duke. I thought he was like kind of a little bit of a baby, like there was a lot of I questioned whether or not he had the kind of fortitude to put the work in the way he needed to. And I was dead wrong. He's been absolutely, nails, and he has gotten better and better, and he's everything he thought he was. So cool. Credit to him for believing in himself more than anybody else, did for a guy that was the top 20, high school recruit. But like, definitely, a player that has like come up, man. Like, and I want to see him to the point where I'm just like a huge fan, and I like him, and I like Dyson. I like Atlanta's personnel. There we go. Hit that.
Yeah, man. There's a nice driving kick, pick and roll, Paolo to Jace right off the bat. And yeah, as you were saying, it is kind of a good example of the Ewing theory, with at least to kind of see how it plays out in terms of like, you're not going to find a team more heliocentrically built, as you're saying, offensively, but also kind of, this is the year they have the depth where they could maybe withstand his absence, and like you're saying, get a lot of valuable reps while he's out to kind of see what else works, because everyone kind of knows what you're getting with the Trae offense, and it's good looks, but you also have to have offense the whole game. So finding other lineups that work, potential backup lineup, secondary creation is good. And yeah, huge for Jalen to get this development. Goga trying to block everything, smacks him in the head.
Yeah. Gay is extremely mobile. That was the thing that stood out in the draft. Like, it's just like, man, this guy has real bend in his legs. And that was impressive when I saw him move. I was like, wow, this guy has real flexibility for his size. Wasn't sure how it was translate, but he had my attention during the pre-draft process, just from his length mobility combination. It was like, okay, that's interesting. And I like stories like him. I like guys like that. That's kind of my favorite thing. But this Atlanta team's interesting, right? And Zach Ricochet is not a lot of things, but like, he's definitely rock solid, and he's big, right? In a lot of ways, he's like in that De Silva mode for me, where it's like smart guy that has good length and gives you, lineup versatility, and you can trust that he is going to play solid, intelligent team basketball. And if that's my floor for guys, like, that's my basketball philosophy. It doesn't win me a lot of fantasy hoops seasons, but all of my teams are always drafted with guys that are like 6'7" to 6'10" and know how to like dribble, pass, and shoot, and have good basketball IQ. It's like, I will build a team all the time with dudes like that and take my chances with the individual skill levels. And I think that's what I love the most about the Pacers last year, is in a lot of ways it felt like a vindication, because everyone was like, oh wait, you can, like, kind of put guys together, and it's not the easiest thing to replicate, but it starts with players that like know how to play basketball. And I always think that that's like, I'd rather start with that than try to teach that. And unless you have a transcendent talent, like, I mean, Paolo Banchero and Franz are prime examples of that. Like, Paolo's getting some shit. I know that was going around the internet or whatever, and it's unfortunate considering how much process-based improvements he has made. But like, he knows how to play too. He really does. I think it's hard when you can do everything. Watch that a lot. Guys have to refine on the margins because, like, I don't know how much these guys study. Like, some guys do, but I don't know if Paolo's all up in that true shooting percentage like list going, like my shot efficiency. I'm like, I think sometimes you're just really good at everything and you're asked to do everything, and you have to learn how to do a little bit less because you're talking about 3 or 4 possessions a game where you should, zig instead of zag. Like, it's easy to criticize those things, but like on the whole, his shot profile and his overall decision making is kind of where I think it should be. And I still don't think they have the perfect. That's why I want to see him play the 5, not because I think he's some defensive anchor, but I'm like, I just want to see this team lean into its biggest strength, which is like size, mobility, and like flow. Because shooting is still we have a couple guys that can do that is basically the best you could say. And Bane will catch fire and make a huge difference, but like, they're never going to be a pure 5-out, like, super threat. They have like it's technically 5-out, right? But like, you're like, it's not like the most, awe-inspiring perimeter attack of all times. But if you can get up and out and just move around and just have a bunch of like tall, smart guys on the court, I think that's fun. Yeah, and Mo Wagner, because he's fun too.
Yeah,
a little bit out of control, but always fun.
Wagner always bringing the energy. I do hope that you're building your fantasy teams like real life basketball teams, looking for that on floor chemistry that doesn't get represented in the stats. But I hope that's how you build your actual fantasy teams as well as how you would build in real life. I mean,
I do, and I get drubbed every time because the statistics, like all of my teams are always built with guys that are going to average like 5 assists and like 7 rebounds.
You're winning the true shooting percentage category and losing every counting stat category.
Yeah,
in the lineup there. But yeah, I totally agree. I would in my head, if we're gonna emulate it to some of the Warriors small ball stuff, like you offensively, you can see Paolo be a better version of Draymond offensively in that type of role. You can see Franz emulate some of the big wing stuff that an Iguodala or Harrison Barnes does. Maybe even throw De Silva out there offensively and just kind of fill out the lineup with shooters, whether it's Desmond Bane and Jalen Suggs or Jace Richardson at times. De Silva and Anthony Black can kind of fit that mold as well. Like, there's a lot of options there for lineups where they go small. We saw a little bit of Paolo at the 5 with Steve Kerr on the Olympics, and we kind of got a mixed results, kind of the good and the bad of what we're talking about here. We're like, we did see the small ball playmaking, but it kind of came with all of the negatives of playing a small ball 5, like pretty much getting beat on the boards, getting beat with the rim protection, not really defending the rim and the paint as much as you would like, and also might have something to say with the rest of Team USA's lineup in that one as well. But I remember like it wasn't quite that when they used it, it wasn't quite as effective and awe-inspiring as I might have wanted it to be. But
yeah,
definitely want to see it in Orlando, and especially like it never has to be a full-time thing. Like it could just be a great lineup to have against certain matchups where, if the other team's going to go small and you don't want to use your rebounding advantage, having some lineups to roll out where your best 5 players can play 5-out basketball is probably a good option there.
Yeah, and like shit takes like experience too, right? Like it's not something like because he's not an anchor. You're not looking for, oh, I think he could be the backline captain. Like you're looking at taking advantage of different
It's like playing
situational.
Jokic at the 5 or something. Like he's not, even though he's a plus defender, he's not a natural traditional rim protector 5.
You're looking to create problems. You're looking to stress the other team defensively, and you're also looking to mitigate some of your weaknesses in the half court, right? Like you're looking to see if it's a matchup thing, and then you're looking to you know backfill that defensively because the guy's got size, right, and mobility, and you're like, look, man, you should be able to do some stuff,
Yeah.
to at least not give back what you gained on the other side. And I just think it's an interesting. This team has some. We talked about it last year. This team has such an interesting roster composition that it's like, yeah, it's not perfect, and obviously everybody knows the weak areas. And I think once Bane, and I'll say once because point that I forgot. So for anybody that's like losing their minds, and I know there's whatever, I grew up in Boston, like 8 games into the season might as well be like 68 games into the season in terms of people's ability to draw conclusions and have the sky start falling right away. But like the last time I saw Desmond Bane struggle shooting was the year that Ja Morant was suspended and he got a promotion to number 1 option in the backcourt, and he was really not that great for like the first, I don't know, 20 something games of that season. And then he figured it out. And then he was awesome. And then he took a seismic step forward in terms of his overall on ball creation. It's basically the first year he really graduated into like, I must do a lot more self creation and not just play off of Ja's, gravitational force. And like, I watched this before, right? And he doesn't have any of the same, like, yes, he is the primary. I don't even say he's the primary perimeter guy, because Franz lives on the perimeter. So like he is the primary scoring option of small people on the court. Like he's got plenty of help. I just think that is a lot more to do with it. Is just I've seen that, and I think that was a pressure. I need to step up. There's expectation stuff. I don't think it was a limiting factor based on defensive attention, because I paid a lot of attention to that because I was a real big fan of Bane, and I was like, okay. And I won that bet. I was like, he'll be fine. He'll figure it out. The process is sound. I don't see him playing above his head like somehow he got exposed because of matchups or whatever. And I think this is a much more advantageous position. And I'm just going to assume that that's a trend and that this is a short term, like that's what he does, like gets jacked up about, stepping up and is maybe just like overthinking it a little bit and needs to settle back into just instinctual hoops versus the narrative that the season began with, right? And whatever his self conversation is, right? That some people have. As somebody that has a lot of internal monologues with myself, like I can relate to like, building things up too much. And I can't say that that's him. I don't know him personally, but I do know that there is direct evidence, circumstantial evidence, like for him being in a new role and struggling with something that we all know he's elite at, like for a minute.
Yeah, and to that point, I was pulling up some basketball reference as you were talking there about his usage and his two years with higher usage as Ja was in and out of the lineup was his lower 3-point percentage. But like to your point, it just take the 24 season. It looks like I just had it here, but he shot the ball pretty rough to start the year and figured it out as the year went on. Like his lowest actual season was still 38 to 39% as a 3-point shooter. So even when he dipped early, like you said, so in the 24 season, the first 37 games, was it? No, I just had a nice number for us, and it just disappeared on me. Here we go. All right, this is the one. 17 games, 35% from 3. Still shooting 9 threes a game, but 35% is the dip for Bane for the first 17 games. And then the next 25 games, he's shooting 40% on 8 threes a game. And that was with his highest usage of his career. So as you said, he figured it out as he goes. Combination of, finding his rhythm, his role, his creation load on the ball, finding that balance. take some time and take some reps, like you said. And Bane is clearly a very, like you said, cerebral thinker of the game, like thoughtful.
He's had to be. Look at his background. Look how he exists in the NBA. That guy had 0 things given to him. Yes, like he's a rare alligator. The last guy I saw with arms that short that was dominant was Jose Juan Barea. Like that's the last person I can remember that had that significant, like that you could physically see how short his arms are. Like it's like this guy has no length. Like length is his weakness. Yeah.
Literally. He joked about it before, like everyone else on the team is longer and taller than everyone at their own position. He is not. He's the antithesis of that, but he at least has the muscle arms to go with it.
He's huge and strong.
He's got the shoulders. He makes up for it with bulk and size and strength at the very least. But yeah, the rest of the team got him on some of those measurements. It is funny seeing that lined up together, but hopefully it's a complementary thing that adds a little bit to kind of their depth of what they have. But definitely want to see what he can do. I like where De Silva and Black are at. I think they have thrived in the closeout attacking role player roles. AB, we were talking about before, is probably one of the more versatile pieces because he's one of the only bench guys that can play defense not only well but at probably an elite rate. So you can plug him and play with the starters basically anywhere 1 through 3 anytime anyone misses minutes. So on the one hand, he's super flexible that way and can be utilized in a ton of different ways. But on the other hand, I think it messes with his just his own role, like his own confidence, knowing like the team can utilize him every night in a different way. But I think he would be best if he could just get into a rhythm of like, this is my role for this team and I'm going to thrive in that role, which I feel like some other players get the luxury of have, but he's in this weird spot of like, they need his half court creation sometimes, but sometimes actually, no, we don't want you doing that at all. Just go stand in the corner. But sometimes you're going to run the bench offense. It just it's all over the place for him. But I think he's best downhill with the ball in his hands with a screen. Yet with this team, he's probably best just attacking closeouts, spacing the floor a little bit. And if they need him to run some bench lineup or be a connector pass, then break it out. But interested to see how they use him. But do you think one of Anthony Black or De Silva kind of jumps out as the X factor for this team, or they just kind of go hand in hand as the 6th, 7th man? Whoever's hot that night will kind of be your X factor.
I hate punting, but they're so young. They're both in year 3, if I'm correct.
I meant more so this year than
long term. Oh no, I meant like I don't know, right? Like it's so early and like development's not linear and like all this other stuff. Like I want to believe that both of them should probably be averaging 20 plus minutes a game, and I think that's where I'm most interested on the lineup experimentation, because I think that yes, some of it is like, okay, depending on consistency, like one or the other will get more run. But I think ultimately the team's ceiling, and I don't know where Jace fits into this too, but I have a feeling that like he could be a little bit of a hot factor because he's another guy that can shoot and looks like he doesn't give a fuck. And can do some things dare I say he's got a little Cole Anthony in him, and like the idea is that it's supposed to be better process, right? I guess like you're supposed to get a higher upside, but like I think that they'll need those X factors to hit their top level. We saw Franz and Paolo like sustain real playoff dominance with no significant support, and I think that Bane will be a perfect third option. But I think ultimately this team, I was just looking at what the shot distribution is right now, and it's pretty good, right? It's like 16, 15, 7, 13, 3, and then we're at like 8, 7, 8, 7. I think that figuring out when you have a team like this that's built like this and you have a lot of guys that can like do stuff, I think I like to see ultimately, and they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, they have 7 guys averaging double figures right now. I like that, but it's the nuance inside there where you're like, well, how do you do things, right? Like the strength of having 8 or 9 guys is really about like deployment, right? And it's much harder than just running out like, kind of like Denver's lineup the last few years where you're like, okay, cool. Like that's fucking easy. And it's like, oh, yay, we traded like this guy for Cam or whatever. But like, that's not a real dynamic. Like you're basically, what 3 guys are coming off the bench and you know exactly how it works. This is a much more fluid like solution. It's not just letting things mature. You're right. You're like, you really need to figure out how to use your personnel, right, to maximize what they have.
And let me follow up with, what do you think is the best offense for this team? Like, how does it look court mapping position wise or play scheme wise? Because I think anytime I've like tried to ask Coach Mosley about the play calling and try to word it right, and this was even before Bane, it always comes back to like decision making and the scheme, and more so of the a great coach. Forgetting the quote, I'll look it up in a second. But the idea that a lot of coaches run plays, but not many of them like run schemes. So the idea that they're just calling, you might have 10 random plays that work, but they don't really work in unison. They're not really built off of each other. They're not threatening one play action to get the deep route off of it. They're just random plays that work. So if Orlando can build a system of 10 plays within a scheme, we got a live shot of the barbershop in Atlanta at the arena, which is just one of the greatest random perks that Atlanta put in their new arena. That's funny there. But ultimately, what does the best version of this offense look like, where they're getting the most out of everyone, but it's a system where they can, all within run scheme, we can rotate between, a Franz Wendell pick and roll into the Bane Banchero handoff the next play, or maybe ultimately those are different lineups with different goals ultimately too. So like how do we end up at a scheme that like maximizes this offense?
So this is what I see when I look at this team, and I'll include some guys because I'm a big like Noah Penda fan, and he's had his moments, and he's not going to do a ton this year. But like if I'm looking at like the IQ collectively of this team, I don't want a lot of set stuff other than manufacturing things. I want a lot of read-based like familiarity stuff where these guys, like the onus is on them, man. Paolo knows how to see the court. Franz knows how to see the court. Desmond knows how to see the court. Anthony Black knows how to see the court. Tristan De Silva knows how to see the court. Wendell Carter knows how to see the like soup to nuts. Like their entire rotation has IQ that I trust. I'm not like teaching them how to see things. I'm like more guiding them into making like better decisions from an awareness of like the entire picture kind of stuff, right? Like it's more film. Like honestly, I don't know how they run practices and all of their film work or whatever, but I am a huge fan of more interactive, lesson-based, collaborative time versus just drilling and lecture-based analysis. Like I want guys thinking. I want small work groups, like coming up with like kind of like in-class project-based stuff, right? Like really like challenging them to think through things and not just telling them what to do. And I don't know if that's how they run stuff or how common that is now, but like I really like, especially with a highly cognitive group like this, to like challenge them to share what they think and push them to work through scenarios and tell the staff what they see and how they think they should read it, and be really back and forth, because like, because this team is it's just a really intelligent roster. Like, and their main rotation guys are dudes that know how to like think the game. They're just young and they don't have a ton. They have more, but they don't have like a ton of collective experience. They're getting more. Like this is, we're not talking about, this is year 3 and 4 for some of these guys together as a unit. So it's not, super early days, but I think from an age standpoint, we're still in that like we're in the turn where you start to learn how to win basketball games. And I think they've already shown that. It's not like they're completely clueless, but like when you build a young team and you don't bring in like, I mean, Desmond Bane's the veteran. What is he, 26? Like, it's not exactly like the most seasoned, like, oh, we've been there and done that and seen everything. And I got the wisdom. Like, they've leaned into like, nah, like we're just 25 and under. Like, that's what we do. And so the downside of that is you're still in the learning by doing stage, right? So how do you accelerate that if you haven't been there, right, before? And I think that that's where I think it's really interesting in terms of the approach you take. And if it was me, I would be spending every non-game time putting these guys into scenarios where they were working, just like in school where like you'd be doing collaborative learning, like put stuff down, set up scenarios, challenge guys to present their findings. Like, this is a smart group. Challenge them to think through things and then critique and give feedback, but let them contribute knowledge so they're constantly pushing themselves based on principles. I don't think you need a lot of hard and fast, like you just want basic principles. And I think this team has the ability collectively to figure out how to move around each other and be smart at playing basketball, even if they don't have, I don't know if any team has perfect, personnel, right? And like, whatever you can say about Oklahoma City is really good right now or whatever, but like, there's a lot of different ways to win. And I'm going to trust that this roster has something they can hang their hat on, which is elite defense. And that'll keep you in games because look, you could be a great shooting team. I as a Bostonian who goes home every Christmas and, is just immersed in, this stuff like shot variance has its own problems, right? Live by the three, die by the three. It's nice to be able to manufacture paint pressure and grind out possessions and get to the free throw line and do all that stuff. And I think this team has shown that. So it's like, yeah, you want more shooting, but ultimately I think you just want guys that know how to the ball moves faster than people's feet, right? And these guys have a lot of dudes that can see the court and make plays. And I just believe that if you move around intelligently and you screen intelligently and you have a really good feel for the principles that you want to run by and your teammates, so you understand your personnel, right? KYP, not just your opponents, but each other. Like, I just figure that like this collective basketball, and so like, no one on this team strikes me as particularly selfish. Like, I'd have way more problems with Paolo if he's like, well, obviously I got to get my 20 shots, but then after that, we'll figure it out. Like, none of these guys feel like they're at some kind of quota that makes, right? Like, they feel like this team could just, nobody on this team feels like they wouldn't just give up the ball, right? Like, I don't feel like anybody's like, oh no, the ball just is going to stick, with me no matter what, because I got to get mine. And I think that's a rare thing. So if you have intelligence and you have people that are unselfish and there's just a natural hierarchy, like that's a foundation. So I think that's it for me. It's just like practicing understanding the down and distance of every possession, understanding what you're facing, and then just evolving and pushing as hard as you can on that, like mental maturation of like how synthesizing experience. Other than that, like you're just going to have to keep going to the grindstone until you move up the ladder, which they've been doing. But I think if you're going to accelerate that without just doing the natural every season, you take it a step further thing. Like, I think that's what I'd be looking for. I think that's the way they do it, is that they figure out, how to optimize each other. Right. I don't know if that's like super tangible as an explanation, but that's what I see when I see this team. I'm like, smart guys, unselfish, good size, very young, relatively. So I'm like, what do you do? I'm like, just try to cook it faster. Where's the convection oven for this team's accelerated, learning, right? It's like, you're going to have to figure out ways to practice the IQ part.
Yeah, that's a great summary of where this team's at and how they're trying to pull it off. I know, like I may have mentioned just asking Coach Mosley about it, he says a lot of those similar types of things. Wanting them to get to the point where they're calling plays on the floor based on what they read and react and feel, just as much as him voicing them from the sideline. He won't. He's never like fully shared his secrets and stuff like that. When I try to ask him about like sequencing and thoughts like that, but that's kind of where he ends up getting is. And that was also with before Bane was even here, was just getting to that comfortability with everyone. And like you said, like it's a young team. Isaac is the oldest on the team, I would say, unless there's some veterans probably. I should recheck, but the longest tenured is the word I'm looking for on the Magic. He was drafted in 2017 summer. And then
probably
Wendell's
the oldest
here.
by default, I would think.
Yeah, I feel like there's like Tyus Jones maybe is who I'm thinking of. Who do we got here? Tyus is 29.
Okay, Tyus is the oldest.
So we got him just a smidge older. There we go.
Yeah.
Just a little bit. Mo Wagner, 28. But old 20s, high 20s. I don't think there's a 30-year-old on the roster. Pretty sure.
Tyus is your most senior level guy, like, and even at 29,
he's bounced around, but a ton of winning experience. Obviously, a champion at Duke as well, and but yeah, I mean, like, this team has not been there before on their own or as a group, and I do think they can kind of like. The criticism is fair while it happens, and like this is the time, like you're saying, to kind of test things out and build, see what this team can be great at, build a little bit of an offensive identity with the new personnel. I personally, like I said, I'd almost like to see nights where the whole offense is like flipped, where it's an off-ball shooting offense, where it's just let's see how many threes we can get Bane and Suggs on stagger screens and flare screens and elevator screens and all.
That's where I think Jace would be interesting, right? Like
Chase, yeah.
Like, what do you feel about him? Like, so I don't do draft stuff anymore. All I do, like, ironically, Charlie knows this, but I am working with Orlando a little bit this year. They are like a thing. That's all I'll say. It's nothing crazy, but like I have a big reason to watch this team more closely this year, which is always nice. But like, I'm very interested to understand like what you think Jace can be, where he fits in, because I'm always worried about like young players like this too on teams that are kind of this far along on their kind of thing. And he's in early returns strike me as a guy that can play catch up, at least mentally, is like, like not going to be intimidated by having to, play up to a higher standard. Like he's not going to get to enjoy the part where it's like, hey, you suck, I suck, we all suck. And then we just get shots up and then we just, whatever, we're past that point, right? The bar is much higher for getting on the court and staying on there. And that is a very tough development context for certain players that are used to being able to fuck around and find out. And like, that's not really the opportunity. So I just turning it to you, like, where do you see him? Like, he's a rookie. I'm not expecting miracles, but like, how does he fit into this?
Yeah, nothing but good things from Jace. I was probably too low on him relatively pre-draft. But I think I had him around 18 or 20. And funny enough, the Magic supposedly targeted Jace and Penda at 18 and 25 originally, and then both of them ended up falling to them at 25 and 33 in the draft anyway, and they were able to use their draft assets to end up with their two targets in theory anyway. So that's a one plus of you get your guy that you were targeting and you're already comfortable with beforehand. Jace definitely has a little bit of that swaggy pea shooter confidence that we've talked about, where it's just, nothing but confidence. And also like the one skill that stood out when I got to see him live scouting in Mount Vernon versus Columbus High School couple years back was his shooting touch immediately. Like
Yeah.
clearly a guy kind of like Kai and Anthony with his dad Melo, clearly a guy that was blessed with the shooting touch gene from his father, and also must have picked up some tricks working in the gym, learning how to shoot all those, like growing up.
Well, he's much more fluid than his father. Trust me, as somebody that is old enough to remember, like all the way from Michigan State, like Jason Richardson ended up being a very solid 3-point shooter, but he had to manufacture that mechanical ass, like fucking 8-part. Like he had really good form, but he was not a flow shooter at all. He
not
worked
to this
his
degree.
ass off. Yeah.
Jason and Jason Jr. is the touch is insane. That's what really stood out. Like on the floaters, the mid-range shots. So like even coming in, his touch has stood out forever. And other people really liked his defensive footwork as well, his defensive tenacity. And I was always a little concerned with that. So hearing that other people liked his defense was promising, mostly because of his size. That was the big thing, was will his height, his size be the limiting factor at the next level? And mostly because he knows where to be defensively. He holds his own there. He's strong, but he also can be a connector and a 3-point shooter offensively. He's been a plug and play guy for this team pretty much right away. Like, and it's almost the backcourt is in a decent situation for him to earn opportunity, where he's the rookie. He's kind of replacing Cole Anthony in a few ways, and like as an energy guy as well. Yeah. He's doing the pregame dances, getting people hyped. He's always like bringing energy on the side, goofing around with the team, like good vibes. They clearly like having him. Clearly likes being a part of this team and organization so far, which are all good signs when a guy wants to be there. But I think there's like an all-around aspect to his game, the two-way feel of it all, where he's clearly a guy that fits right in with what they're doing. We're talking about attacking closeouts. They drafted Jace Richardson, Noah Penda, Tristan da Silva, even Anthony Black. All are skilled at attacking closeouts and kind of do it in some different ways, and they can all kind of fill in a lineup around your big wing stars. So they all kind of play some slightly different positions as well, so they can maybe even complement each other if all you did was play a whole lineup of guys just like that, as you've kind of talked about a lot, whereas you're just throwing out good decision makers who can dribble, pass, shoot, defend, play basketball, and do it wisely. And totally agree on the general point of just wanting to let them experiment with what they have to see what they kind of come to as a nucleus together, because these are smart basketball players that know where to be on and off the ball. So if we expect them to be communicating in practice to build and talk about these things, we kind of think that the sum of its parts will add up to something greater than, the deficiencies. And you hit on like how like Paolo is getting this huge amount of grief, or it's maybe the wrong word, just a ton of hate online the first opening week for shooting percentages, when like it's really just like you said, like 5 shots a game that are bad, while like 40 shots are good looks for the team. And it's like, what are we harping on like a few bad shot selections for? Also, like a lot of people don't seem to realize this guy is like trying to play like Carmelo Anthony at almost 7 foot tall, while also being a playmaker. Like he's just a very unique player that we don't really see out there. And I feel like he doesn't get the same like oohs and ahs that obviously that Wemby gets for his highlight plays. Like Paolo's a pretty rare skill in his own self, but I think we've just normalized like 6'10", 250. If he's not Jokic or LeBron, he must not be the best player ever, or something. Like he's clearly doing a lot of great things, right?
Yeah, I don't know how, like, so, this stuff's on, like, Twitter and stuff. Like, I hate fucking bringing this shit up, but, like, I was still covering the draft when he was drafted. It's, like, one of my last ones. Right. But, like, it was pretty obvious right away, like, that his skill set was just, like, number one, pick level, like, special guy, not just number one pick that year, but like he was a guy, right? He's like a significant talent And I think sometimes guys just everybody gets excited when they first come in, right? And then very quickly, especially if they get to the playoffs and the team starts having success, it turns into what haven't you done for me lately kind of stuff where you're just like, oh, okay, like the narrative window shifts, right? And then you're just
The
like,
hype
okay.
cycle traps everyone.
And then you're like, you have not reached the level, right, that I want you to. It's now time for you to do this stuff. And I get some of that. Like, obviously, you have to keep on progressing. But again, early in the season, and the indicators seem to be pretty good in terms of like where his shot diet is coming from. And he's also, again, like him and Franz, but like especially him, are just so taxed with doing a ton of stuff, and like he's so dangerous creating. Like he basically plays LeBron style offense, right? He's a giant physical monster that is like in charge of ball handling and all this stuff, and it's like, yeah, that leads to X percentage of pretty low percentage looks, but that level of refinement, like it's the creation and the decision making that you're looking at inside there. And that's where I'm like, the intelligence and the want to. He's not like forcing, like I always cringe a little bit. I was like, oh, Melo, because Melo did not have the unselfish gene. I'll just say that. Melo was hunting shots and I'm getting 25 shots. It took forever for him to figure out how to like do less.
Yeah,
and that's
what makes Paolo like as a playmaker dynamic. It's like a little bit of, that's where the comp is like the Melo shot making, but with a little LeBron playmaking and build to him.
Yeah.
Or a little that point forwardy Blake Griffin on Detroit Pistons, where he can hit he can run the whole offense out of the front court as a point forward. That kind of guy. But yeah, I'm with you. Not strictly just the Melo, because he's definitely a better playmaker than Melo, but also probably not quite the tough shot maker, efficient shooter.
Melo is one of the best
as Melo, right?
No, so Melo is a great shooter that took
and that's the
too
goal,
many shots.
I think, with Paolo, is like to get to the point where his mid-range jumper is as efficient as a layup. Like it's a Kevin Durant level mid-range jumper. Maybe not Kevin Durant, but like as efficient as possible, where it's a good shot for the team every time he takes it. And so he can kind of, I think the biggest hurdle for him is getting better at that mid-range shot, but also just simply doing what he's been doing in the last few games, taking more shots at the rim. And what you highlighted, like how many stars would be okay taking less shots, taking the ball out of their hands, running more rim rolls, setting more screens, number one picks. There aren't many that are just flatly okay with all of that. And the Magic have credit to their front office, I think, because this goes into the person more than the player. Like you said, no, it's a good balance of like confidence without cocky egos and me and points. Like you're getting guys that like literally the top 8 or 9 guys on this team probably all have a claim to wanting a bigger role with more touches and more shots, especially a guy like say Goga Batadze, who gets stuck between like third string center. Now he's back up. Sometimes he's spot starting. Suddenly Wendell's back and he doesn't play at all.
And he's easily a starter, right? Like he's a starting caliber center.
Right. And he feels that way. And it just highlights that even him, like that's probably the best example of like maybe there's a problem there by the trade deadline, because he thinks he's a starter, deservedly so, where you just can't keep everyone on the bench when they're overqualified. But they found a good mix here where everyone is confident in what they do, but like Franz isn't complaining that he's not getting touches in the second half. Paolo isn't complaining that he is setting screens and rolling a lot now. Like they're both very open to figuring out this offense because they know it's been a problem, and it's been basically them carrying the load, taking turns for years. So
it was terrible watching them go down last year in the first round because nobody else could like do anything.
Yeah.
And I think they're all very much aware of that. And I think that's great exposure to have like early too, is to get there and and to see to be like, okay, like we're not enough. Like we played about as well as you can play. And it's just like, that you need more support than that. And there's so much better support than just like putting shooters around them. There are dribble, pass, and shoot, intelligent playmaking, like threats that are with them. And I think that if you're looking where Paolo will go, right now he's shooting, I don't know, 27. I don't know if he's ever going to be a great 3-point shooter, like, or whatever. Like, I think he is probably a 34% kind of 3-point shooter. I don't think that's like really his thing. I think he's passable, but I don't think he needs that. I think his stuff is always going to be going downhill. And I think his efficiency will come from the maturity and the support of the teammates, where he's getting off ball and he knows he has, like, I think that'll happen this year. I think as soon as Desmond Bane hits Desmond Bane's stride and joins them, like he's averaging 14.5 points a game right now, shooting like the worst he's ever shot on the lowest volume humanly possible for him. As soon as he's back up to 8 threes a game at 40%, I think you instantaneously see a bump in Paolo's efficiency from 2-point range, because he just won't try to generate as many points himself. As soon as I don't think he hesitates for a second to get off the ball if he feels it, but he also knows that he has a tremendous responsibility to generate offense for this team. So, like, that's the stuff that I'm talking about. Like, you get that level to come up, and I don't know if Suggs ever gets back to that level he was at like 2 years ago before he got hurt or whatever, if that was magic. I think he's very good. I don't know if he's like 18 points a game good, but that's why you have Desmond Bane. Like Suggs is a fourth option, or Suggs is like another one. Like, I put Suggs in the same like bin as like Anthony Black and Silva. I think he's better than those guys right now. But when I look at like dudes that are like legitimate starting guys, but not necessarily focal point offense guys, but complementary, like satellite tertiary players to your 3 main dudes or whatever, like those are guys that can like legitimately put up points. They can have big games, but they're not necessarily guys you have to rely on every night. I like people slotting into their roles, and that's why I was so high on the Bane selection, because I knew those other dudes had like developmental room to grow, but I also knew they didn't have to kind of get to the level. And Desmond is like that perfect piece who can obviously put up 30 or 40 points. He can consistently score 20, and he will do that, and he will find that. And I think Franz and Paolo are not going to have those nights. As soon as he kind of gets his base, I think a lot of stuff will start to slot in, because those aren't guys that are going to go. I've said it a bunch of times. I hate the dudes that go 7 for 27. I hate that. I hate guys that are like, well, like I got to find my shot and whatever. It's like, nope, it's not your night. I like the guys that realize once they're like, 4 for 16 that it's over. And then they just get the fuck off the ball and find other people. And it's a lot easier to do that when you have a roster like this with guys that can actually hoop. Penda's another one of those guys. I have really high hopes. I know he's not a shooter or whatever, but once this team starts flowing, like this dude reminds me of like Boris Diaw, like so much, like just big. Look at his body, man. What is he? He's like 20, right?
That's a good shot. Like a play finisher, connector. If he's
with that size, and he processes quickly, and he can do kind of crazy shit. He's always like crashing, and he can see the like. I love
all the energy.
Yeah, and he's very fluid, as an athlete. Like, these are the kind of dudes that I'll go to war with like all the time, and they just need it to all kind of like coalesce and figure it out.
Yeah,
and I'm bullish. Despite everyone wanted them to be like whatever, like 7-0 right now. That would be tremendous, and I think that's some of it. Is everyone's like, it's finally time. Because, it's Orlando. Orlando's had moments of like really high highs, but obviously those have been interspersed with, extremely low lows. They're a very bipolar franchise since their inception. They have been to the mountaintop, but they also do a lot of expansion-y things, right? So it's like, I know it's frustrating to live in that world where you're like, oh shit, like we finally got there. And now you're like, but this is the year. And I'm like, I think everything's going to work out pretty well. I just think that they're finding how it works. And I think the slow start is masking some of the kind of normalcy that's going to come from this. Atlanta won, pretty handily tonight, and that's not going to make anyone feel good. But like, I'm just not that concerned with the first 8 games of the season. Like I said, get back to me at game 20. And I think that you'll see a team that's ready to stack some wins. And I still have them penciled in for 50 wins. I just don't see a world where they can't figure that out. And the East is not that good. I think their current record is much more a byproduct of slow start itis or whatever for, expecting that, I think when you get a guy like Bane too, and you're like, oh, we're there and our defense is great. Like there is like that too, where you're just kind of like, oh, finally, now it's all going to happen. You're like, nope, still gotta go get it. Still gotta take the wins. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't just, they're not like, oh, hey, they're not, the other team's not going to kiss your ass because like the media
figured it out on paper, but you gotta do it on the court still. And
it's a young team. Young teams are more susceptible. Again, like you're collectively, these are lessons. And I think that's what makes teams like this so interesting is and Atlanta in a lot of ways. They got some more veterans, I guess, actually really it's like fucking Porzingis is basically the only veteran on the team with Trae out. But like these teams have to learn stuff. Guys like this, right? Jalen Johnson, like dudes at this age that are kind of putting it together and starting to impact games. And I think Orlando's way further along than most young, bases. But like, look at Oklahoma City the last 4 years and look at their growth, right? They didn't just magically go to the conference finals and then win the championship over the last 2 years. That was a 5-year build, right? Like, and I really look at this as like maybe year 2 of like the real like they've been competitive for 2 years. They're not like, yes, the main names have been there a little longer, but this is like year 3 of being a real team, right? And not just like a happy, scrappy group of potential. Like this is the build phase of, kind of the rise is like, yeah, we've been competitive for 2 years. And I think they'll take a definitive step forward this year.
Yeah. 2 years of top 5 defense, and they add the third star with the all-in move. You would think, I'm with you, some growing pains. Expectations kind of spoil everything when you're the young upstart team that's full of fun to watch. And literally, I have dubbed every Magic season the most exciting since the one before, for like, I don't know, pretty much since we traded Vooch for Wendell. Like that immediately started that process. But like
Vooch has been absolutely balling for
he's
Chicago.
Been killing it this year. He is. So my Vooch hate doesn't really.
I know how bad he is on defense, man. But like at some point, somebody's got to give him some credit for how good he is on offense.
No, he is. You caught me late night here.
No, I'm not giving you shit. I'm on the Swish theory thing, and I'm like, all the Chicago guys are like, I hate Vucevic. I'm like, he's pretty talented.
I went straight to the hate, but yes, he is better than your average setter. He can hit the open shot. That's Vooch for you. But no, the Magic are in an exciting time, and I think we hit on. I think I answered your Jace question, but I'm really excited to just kind of see how big his role can blow up, because it's in a one of those situations where like he's already the exciting rookie backup QB to Tyus Jones, where everyone just wants to see him already. Like the moment Tyus makes a mistake on a team that's expected to win, like, all the fans are rooting for him to get pulled for Jace immediately already. And it's like, we just got Tyus here after 5 years of begging for a guy like him to be here, and literally for fans begging literally for him to be here. So I think Jace will have the opportunity, and he's been great. Like he's just been plug and play good as a point guard that keeps his dribble alive and knows how to kind of like do the Steve Nash dribble to drive, run baseline, keep his head up, look for open shooters, like natural traditional point guard stuff. But also he has the floater. Also he can hit the three, and he can run the offense, defend a little bit. So just another plug and play guy, just like these other closeout attackers. And yeah, Suggs, I think ultimately, to your point, like Suggs is the head of all of those closeout attackers, or I should say, like the best version of him probably is that kind of where he's at now, where it's fourth in command, it's connector, it's secondary playmaking, 3-point shooting. Ideally, like we said 2 years ago, he was like 7 or 8 threes a game, like 38, 39, 40% from three. You would think him and Bane in the same backcourt. Now you would think you're getting like, I don't know, 15 threes a game
Yeah.
on pretty high efficiency, 38% if you're doing it right. So that's ideal. But I do agree where Bane is just much more proven on that end. No matter what we see this in these 8 games, doesn't matter when the 3-year rolling sample size is 42%
Yeah.
on and off the ball or whatever it is on like 8 threes a game. And Suggs is still a little unproven on that end. It very much reminds me of Marcus Smart's development path as a streaky 3-point shooter, as kind of like a point guard connector who can get hot for 8 threes a game, but it can also shoot you out of a game if he starts taking a few too many. And a little erratic. I think Suggs is a little better decision maker on that end of things, but in terms of the streakiness and the 3-point development, Smart also got very efficient very quickly, but it was a little up and down throughout his career, and it took a few years to get to. But I think ultimately, like, that was the type of player that worked best next to Jalen Brown and Jason Tatum, and we might have to carry this on to our next conversation about the Celtics and those parallels, since we're here in the post game interview now. But yeah, man, it was fun. We any takeaways real quick from that game at all that we didn't hit on? Silva looked pretty good, doing his thing, filling his role. Suggs forcing turnovers, making hustle plays. Paolo passing. That was nice to see.
Yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty well. It's not an outstanding game for them, and I got to look at the box score to look at the particulars on who played well, honestly, with Atlanta. But it's another one of these games. Like, Atlanta's in the middle of playing their post Trae, so I don't know how good the game plan is, because Trae has sucked up so much of that for the last while. I think you get hit with that a little bit. A little bit of the early season stuff. They didn't shoot well, obviously, tonight. That wasn't that hard to see in terms of just conversions. They were not able to generate easy stuff. But no, I think this early in the season, it's just really hard for me to focus on like individual performances. You're like, hey, what's going on here? And it's like, okay, yeah. I trust the personnel, and I've seen enough where I'm like, I know what the foundation is, and I have very little doubt that foundation will very quickly find its level. Everything I needed to know about Orlando's foundation was proven when they literally lost all of their offense last year and was still able to tread water basically until they got guys back. I'm like, okay, this team is tough. And that's hard to teach. And it wasn't obvious tonight, obviously, giving up $127 or whatever the hell it was. But I'm just not that concerned with that. It's much more about I feel like I know this personnel group at least well enough to be like, okay, I'm just intrigued. How fast does this stuff coalesce? And I still am on my preseason thing where I'm like, I know Desmond Bane, and I'm like, by game 30 this year, they're not going to be 20 games, whatever. They're going to be plus or minus 6 to 10 games of 500. And I don't think they'll be minus, they're not going to be 10 games below 500 at any point in time this season. I'd be shocked. And I'm like, as soon as he hits his groove, I think this entire thing takes another step. And it's 5 guys on the court, rotation, 8, 9 guys in a rotation. It's significant pieces like that bring different stuff, just change the equation so significantly that I'm like, until that kicks in, if he was playing great, we'd be having a different conversation, right? Yeah, I guess,
because
we'd be
still
what's going
losing
on?
this badly, and he was playing great. And to that point, that's how I view the trade to begin with. Is this is a top 4 defense or top 2 defense last 2 years. They traded out Cole Anthony and KCP for Desmond Bane and kept everything else. That means even though this offense looks confused, it's still probably just as good as they've had it the last few years. and nothing's going right is the point. Like this, they have an elite defense. Let's say, I mean, I don't even think they lost much in terms of personnel wise, but from like KCP to Dez is a small drop off defensively, but I think Dez makes up for it in other ways, especially offensively, but even defensively, like he brings the strength and the team defense where I don't like he's not a negative on the defensive end. It's not like you're like that was the big thing is they were able to find a 3-point sniper who also plays defense. So in theory, you can keep that top 4 defense intact that your culture is built off of, and maybe finally solve the offense and upgrade the offense to go from miserable to passive, let alone if it's great, because you have 2 big wing foul drawers who are now finally surrounded with multiple 3-point shooters who can attack closeouts. Everything along the margins is better. Like they give themselves a lot more room for error.
Let's hear what Mosley has to say.
Yeah, we made it all the way to the post-game interview. See, this is where I come in. This is normally my job. I'm the one sitting.
Must be enjoying that, man.
In the crowd. It's been real sick so far. I can't say after a loss anyone is very happy to be there, but normally the questions are super fun. It's just been definitely cool to pick his brain especially, but to hear the players' perspectives, especially after they play well and want to talk a little bit about kind of what they're doing well. So it's been definitely cool to hear a little bit from Bane and Paolo so far, and talking to Franz a little bit about his process. And Suggs always has something, a great quote, very talkative to say. So good vibes from this team, and yeah, I totally agree. I think they'll figure it out. They have a high floor with the defense, and that defense could be such a high floor that, like, even if it was just fouls and individual scoring from Franz and Paolo like last year, your defense is so good, you're still going to probably win half your games. So once the Bane thing gets figured out and your offense gets figured out at all, I mean, ultimately it's incremental until it could be a giant leap. Like if this offense becomes like good, it could suddenly be a giant leap from like 500 team to like clear contender perennial 50-win team if this is like a top 10 offense, because there's 3 all-stars on this team in my view. Like it just has to figure itself out a little bit, and maybe it is as simple as Bane taking and making more threes.
Yeah, no, that's reductionist, but like at the end of the day, it's like Bane plays good. It's going to be because they've figured some stuff out, and his production, which is to be expected, is going to impact the bottom line.
And that's the result. Like obviously, like how they do it is the question, but like once they can get to that result, Bane taking and making more threes, which like we know the making of them is likely to happen if he can just kind of take more of them in good ways, and discovering how to do that will be it. But I think that'll do it for me. You had any parting thoughts here?
No, that's it. I'm just in wait and see mode, and I'm glad I was able to come in this, and we'll definitely do it again. I'd love to, like, I want to definitely spend a decent amount of time watching this team this year, because I do think that there's a lot of interesting stuff.
For sure.
And, and it's it should be fun for you too. You should enjoy your credentials and getting in there. You're talking about trying to figure stuff out. I'm like, ask Desmond. Go talk to him.
Yeah,
ask him about the process. It's the nice part about having access, is especially if you don't have to cover beat level bullshit stories, and you can actually ask questions you want answers to for more analytical based things. It's a real pleasure. Nothing is worse than trying to surf out your serial newser to make deadline, so you get a good opportunity to get in there.
It's been different because I'm working with Sports Illustrated now on SI Magic stuff. So I
Oh,
got
you do have to hit your okay. My
I do
bad. I
have
missed the chapter. All right.
not all of that, but yeah, I'm not like I will. I'm writing about the Magic game tonight after this one, just a little one, but yeah, it's a combination of kind of what you're getting at there. Of like, it's cool to be able to ask basketball questions and learn about their process and philosophy, and there's also a lot of work and articles that go into just covering the day to day
Oh, yeah.
minatois
Grind.
of the
Yeah.
league. So you don't realize like how big every little update is for a lot of people covering the team that go into paying attention to every detail. So you definitely appreciate that grind. But
Well,
yeah,
it's
man.
a pain in the ass,
Well,
man. I got nothing but respect for having to just spit content out consistently. I've been sitting on 4,500 words on Keyshawn George for a week because I can't get to the finish work. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna I have a nice draft and I keep looking at it and then my day disappears and I get to the end of my day and I'm like, I'm gonna do this in the morning and then I hit the morning.
Day.
Yeah, and I'm like, ugh. Yeah. So I appreciate that. Like, I remember those nights. I remember staying up till 3 a.m. all the time doing whatever, or quickly turning around. It's just like, man, it's a fucking lot to cover a team.
No doubt. By the way, we made Playback's official account. They tweeted out our clip that I didn't even clip. So they're watching us, and they shared our reaction to Desmond Bane getting ejected. So if you want to watch that, that made their
that was
official
awesome.
account.
That was one of my favorite.
It was pretty,
memorable. It's like guy spikes ball onto falling offensive player was definitely a new one for me. I have not seen that before.
Something like that. So that was a funny one. I was quick to try to make an excuse for Des there, but
no, when I saw the replay, I was like, well,
maybe something. Maybe
I didn't think it was gonna get kicked out, but it was definitely funny.
There goes, man. That's a funny one. Well, yeah, we'll definitely do this again. It seems like Magic away games could be kind of a good avenue to host these, and I do like how we did it today, kind of Manning cast style with our buddy David Lee covers the Hawks, joining the first half, and then Eric Weiss here second half, breaking down both teams for us.
West Coast, baby. West Coast swings. Cool. I'm always down for. Nobody else ever wants to do that stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. We can work out something nice here. I appreciate it. I'm down. We'll make it happen. I appreciate it, man. We'll do this again soon. Thanks for taking the time.
Have a good night.
You know it.